his weight in a straight back right through the front of those pedals as he goes up the hill. Adjusting the glasses is Camazin, who seems to have been told by Gianetti perhaps to set the pace. There's Gianetti. And gritting his teeth. Just behind him there, we've got the Spanish rider. And that is Crestas Lopez. And you can probably hear the crowd as well as I can, but just look at them. They're really enjoying them. The Swiss fighting with the Italians. Logano getting the championship at a late stage, comparatively so, after a little bit of problems getting the organisation to settle down where the championships will be this year. But here they are. They've made a great job of them, and they've been pretty lucky with the weather. They've had a wet day for the time trial for the men, won by Alex Zula.
Okay, it's getting changed.
Apart from that, the weather has been quite kind, but it's always a risk and will be for the foreseeable future.
Always need getting ready for these races.
The year, especially
the very, very last possible segment.
You can expect the weather to change.
Which is why I'm always,
nearly
always late.
The organisation
is
excellent, and the crowd, as you can see, apparently numbering around 150
where's my shoes?
around the circuit.
Shoes.
And you can't complain too much about that, as Camazin is setting a hot pace here. I think he is the man who's been told to go and do something. Keep this speed high. There's some good riders in this breakaway. From France, we've got Pascal Hervé.
Go on the bike. Damn.
From Spain, Crestas Lopez. The Italians have got Fenegato here, so they wish to put, and Crutini, by the way, but they wish to put 3 in every break. Hasn't quite worked yet, has it?
Nice.
Germany's Kai 100 mark.
As usual. Bit of a late start.
Gianetti is along for the ride with Camazin, and he's a danger because, of course, he was almost a local, Gianetti. Denmark have got Klaus Moller and Peter Menetz. And this is the pack. Black Buffo, the Netherlands to Alex Zula, but the time gap is building at the minute. Mario Pucci having a little go as well. But the Italians will be a little bit handicapped now because they have got a good rider in Fenegato off the road. Fabrizio Guidi, for me, is a man that just poised to win something big soon. He's knocking on the door. Is Klaus Moller. Somebody opened the door, left a little bit of a gap, but it'll have to be shut down. We'll come behind Guidi, who's sitting on the wheel now on their day. Klaus Moller.
Right.
It looks as though Camazin looking for the rear of the group now. He's been doing a lot of work. Really does look like a militant picture.
The window.
Approach the filming station. Very difficult for professional cyclists at this stage of development of the calendar because the season's starting now.
Okay.
January, racing all over.
Nearly sorted.
And by February you've got the traditional race in the south of France. And then you have all of the classic races followed by the 2 big tours. And Italy no longer a race that it can be called a preparation race for the Tour de France. It's a race within its own right. People are saying it's no longer possible to win both.
I didn't pay attention to see if this was going to be a drafting race or not.
It's his birthday today, by the way, October the 13th for Johan. His 31st birthday. And he's made the splitter as well. The only Belgian rider to do so. Gianetti wearing 41. I guess that makes him the leader of the Swiss team.
We're going to find out in a minute or so.
It would have been nice, I must say, to have seen the American Bobby Julich in this breakaway, simply because he's having such a great end of term. Marvellous to well to this span, where he finished, where he was the leader, I think it was for 9 days as the king of the mountain, and then finished 9th overall. So he should have a lot of confidence now. Apparently he's been bombarded with offers to turn pro. It appears at the start this morning he was speaking to journalists and that he was accepting the offer from
not trusting.
Clock counting down the time now. 4 hours 20 now in the saddle. Coming up to the end of lap number 10. leaving us just 5 laps to go at the field. Oh, there's a crash. Zula's gone down. Alex Zula has slipped away and caught in the melee there. The Frenchman riding along Brochard always seems to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Brochard, you remember the crash up behind the Yannick Rabbit in the Tour de France? He went over the top of him there as well. Well, Zula, with the one rider left behind, I think he's going to go out of the race, so the world champion time tries. He's not going to get a chance at the double. The pressure is remaining on here. The Swiss, even though they have Zula down, continue to push the pace with Colmazin in the front. Probably unaware of the crash at the feed. And this is a fine piece of riding here by Colmazin. Taps out the tempo. Back out onto the climb. Up to Cabano again. Claudio Chiappucci starting to run down from being a top cyclist these days. Engage must be catching up at last with the devil, but he's still a very, very popular character indeed. And little Claudio heading up with Tom Rommel sitting behind him, a former world record holder out, who intends to attack it again. But to join the World Championships, the UCI, the Universities International, has decided to limit those famous Superman handlebars, which produce so many world records on the track in Manchester for the World Championships there. First year, by the way, that the World Championships track and road have been separated. Manchester showing the track, and some unbelievable times recorded in the pursuits of the team, individual, for men and for women. Those handlebars have had their wings clipped. And that, you know, might mean that Tony Rominger will not be able to get back the record that he held for the hour. His breakaway still clear. Undercross, Cresta Lopez, Ginetti, Cameron James, Hervé, Klaus Moller, Johan Museo, Fabrizio Guidi, Louis Chapeau on the back there. And that is Felice Pettini. The other Swiss rider, I think I said he was Italian, because Pettini, this type of Italian, is Swiss. And so the Swiss have got 2 riders in this breakaway. And the Italians have in fact got only Ferragato. So they're catching a little play, I think. It really is quite remarkable. This has been the year of the Swiss in many, many ways. Having totally eclipsed the Vuelta in the top 3 places. And now Alex Zula has produced the goods along with Barbara Heed to have 2 world champions on this series here. And now in this breakaway, they've got 3 riders. And Gianetti, of course, he is the man most likely to succeed, although Silva, in fact, he wants to. He's a great little rider, has a lot of courage on his hands. And I'm pretty sure that the other 2, Pettini and Gianetti, have told their problems in to sink the pace until his legs will take him no further. I believe at the end of the 10th circuit with 1 minute and 59 seconds when we saw Chiappucci there leading to the chase group. The Italians, again, for my money, have made a mistake. You know, there may have been a slight disruption of the tempo as well with the crash by Zula in the feeding station. But they might feel a little bit compromised now with Ferragato in this front group. The Italian who turned pro back in 1991, but really we came to notice him this year, 1996, when he won the World Cup Leeds Classic, and then he went over and picked up the Grand Prix of Swiss, and has become a real challenger in the World Cup race now to Johan Museo, with 2 World Cup counting events still to come. The Japan World Cup will close the 11 race series there, and the big race is the Giro de Lombardia. Laurent Jalabert deciding that the strength in the French might not be quite what it should be up in that breakaway with Chanteur and Hervé.
Okay, I'm feeling the pressure in my quads.
Itching, in fact, for somebody to start the reaction, and then he wouldn't get blamed for chasing down his teammates.
I didn't really have time to prepare for this.
Slipped onto his back wheel. Louis Dufaux, Switzerland, lead the marker for his Swiss teammates out front. two of them trying to bridge the gap, but I don't think they're going to get very far as yet. But there's four of them now, and it looks as though this is beginning to be quite a strong race group. Barfield in second place, second in the Grand Prix of Swiss. Fifth in the Leeds Classic, and of course probably equally great, which is eighth place in the Olympic Games. But they're all outwitted there by a very strong brake action. This is the man who's latched onto the back of those four, three. Next, handicapped by the fact that their best man, Johan Museeuw, is in the breakaway. And you know, we have not seen Museeuw do any work at all in that breakaway. He's either taking the pace a little bit hard or working the odds out against him. He's the only golden rider in that front group.
It's difficult to catch your group ahead. Well, it is at the moment anyway.
Number 53. And the Spaniards, in fact, have brought the race basically together. I'm sure they've been stuck up behind to close the gap, but they're all coming together. The next turn looking for a little bit of reaction. Back to the feed, and news has reached us now that in fact Alexander did not continue. He pulled out of the World Championships, but not too seriously hurt. It does seem strange commentating on the world title when the leaders are on the road like this. Commenting and Museeuw, they are doing injustices right there now to the right of our picture. There's two commenting. Briefly slipped back in the second place, but not for long. He's definitely the man who's been designated right until he dropped by his teammates. He's doing all of the work here, coming to the end of lap number 11. His Carmazin takes 3,000 more, Kaimon Bitmark, Mauro Gianetti, Ferragato, Museeuw, Cresta Lopez, and Chanter. It's where all the eyes could gather in at that time, but they're all there. Kaimon Bitmark, there is Mark. When he turned pro, won a 5th place in the World Championships. Again, a man who has had big moments, but never really been consistent. He will with Motorola ability. He's now from the Costa Telecom. Last World Championships too for the Motorola riders without their team leader Lance Armstrong. The feed at just on 2 minutes down, more or less. By the time they get to the finish line, it'll be more than 2 minutes. It'll be the best part of 3 because we're still on the ride to the finishing line. And Bobby Julie on the front gets what he wants. Is music for the rest of the ride. Good to see Bobby there, but he'll be very, very upset with himself, I'm sure of that, having missed his breakaway. Another man anxious to see what was in the back of Max Shandy for flying the colours of British Cycling Federation. There he is on the far right. And now through the finishing line, yes, the time is slipping away. It's now going to be 2 minutes 41 seconds. So, Bobby Julie looking quite a different rider these last few weeks, and it's good to see him developing. All of the Motorola riders that seem to have found themselves contracts with all the top teams around the world, which gives you some idea of the respect that team has held. Very sad indeed to see the loss of the American sponsor who have been their most gracious sponsor, staying in the sport for 6 years. Well, the Swiss really have their money's worth, supporting their own champions, and again it's Carmazin. Well, if Mauro Gianetti or Pertini do manage to win this World Championship, Pertini would be something of a surprise, but Gianetti, I suspect, should have been a marked man among many riders today because of his ability. But I think there are a big debt of thanks to the fine riding here by Carmazin, because he's making it very hard for everybody to get across, although there are those who are trying. This looks like Luc Leblanc. pushing that huge gear on the climb to try and bridge the gap, but the field are right after him. So they may have made a mistake, and there's still time to find that out with that breakaway, but they're letting no one else go, and this is often the case, of course. They chase down riders, but the little flurry of activity surely are beginning to eat into the gap of that breakaway. But now they've picked up LeBlanc. Quite clearly the French are feeling that their two riders up front are not the men for the job. We've seen Jalabert, we haven't seen Richard Virenque yet. But there's still time. Here's the breakaway. No prizes for guessing who was doing all of the work. And second place is LeBlanc, third is Ginetti. Then comes Ferragato. Ginetti, by the way, has always been a man for the World Championships as well as the classic victories he got. He won the Age Best on the Age and the Amstel Gold Race last year, but he also took third place in the World Championship, as well as a fine 17th place overall in the Tour of Spain. Over the top of the Crespida. There's a nice little bit of work there for the road repairers by the look of it. After this World Championship goes away. Main field struggling over the top as well. And it looks as though there's a little bit of a
level 96.
Massive crowds. And the pressure being applied yet again. This is the chase group, and they're trying now to split up this bunch. And it's the Swiss riders who are pushing the pace. I'm a bit surprised about that. Axel Merckx is following. There's Rominger on the left of our picture, and Mark Dufault. Almost a conversation going on there. Merckx looks over the shoulder to see what's going on. Jalabert is mixing it well. He's the top one of the climb this time. A little bit of decision time. The top boys pushing these enormous gears as they do in professional racing these days. And the power of that group of very talented bike riders is hurting the peloton. Back with the leaders now. Ferragato swings up to our right. Over the top. Jalabert. And they've got themselves a little gap. Now can they do something with it? They know the time is running out. They have got to get this race together. They're trying desperately to get something going here. Chasing the television camera, not the best of ideas, but at the moment it looks like the camera having a little bit of a problem to get out of range of the riders. The Italians are worried, that's for sure now. The French are a little bit frustrated. And in fact, it's a marvellous piece of blocking being done by Axel Merckx, because he's just going with the move and trying to stop everybody else getting involved. That's Andy Tappy who's on the front. Pointing at Merckx, no good. It's no good telling about the guys behind either, because they're Swiss. And so they're very frustrated, the Italians. They've made a big mistake, as they often do in World Championships. Despite the fact that there's a big bonus for the riders if they can get the world champion back home to Italy. And we've gone back up to the leading group, which still remaining very compact. Coutinho and Ginetti sitting at the back and sharing a bottle together. While the other man setting the pace and continuing to do so. Pascal Chanter just behind him. Ferragato in third slot. Well, everybody in this breakaway clearly aware of what the instruction has to be to Oscar Camazin, and they're not prepared to help him while he keeps up such a high speed, because we know riding at this speed there's going to be very little improvement from the peloton behind. Talking to this car down below. And Bjarne Riis of Denmark, who was didn't really make a decision. He started to train with determination again in preparation for the World Championship. shifts keep nutting the breakaway. Two of his teammates are, but they're not doing anything to contribute to the pace. So there's still a lot of tactical cards to be played here at the moment.
Okay, the group up ahead isn't really going that fast. So we'll drop down to the 9 on the gears. Quick wave.
Starting now to drive as hard as we can to try and shut down. Try and do something because they're left to a 2 minutes 41 second advantage at the end.
That's the temporary moments.
And now Chiappucci wants all the help he can get. It's all going to be left to the Italians. I think they've worked it out. But nobody's going to help them because very often the world champions the team tend to block out the Italians as well. And they come here with no illusions at all. They want the victory, and they've even said they wanted 2 men in the breakaway on every move, which they haven't really succeeded in doing yet today. We had that long breakaway by just 2 riders, Solomon and the Russian rider Zinchenko. And then the breakaway went. Rominger are looking quite happy with the first. Off on a lunch break at the moment. And the Spanish riders, we haven't seen hardly anything of Abraham Olano. Apart from letting punch him. On the climb again, and to the cowbells he knows so well. Cameras in that sets the pace. And the pace behind shortening up yet again. The Italians are beginning to show signs of distress here as they are trying now to chase down that breakaway. I'm not too sure if Ferragato will be thinking of all of this because the man has proved himself this year that he is very much a potential winner up there in the group, unless he himself has some instruction back to say I need some help. But certainly he's a winner in his own right now. Still Camazin. There's Puccini in 45 for the last 2 years, the champion of Switzerland on the road, but that's really more or less the only race he seems to win. It's a tight one, but Giannetti has never managed to run anything close. And he was still, I think, on 2 occasions, Giannetti. But he's never managed to take home the award. But I think he'd probably trade his national Swiss jersey if he ever had one as a champion for a rainbow jersey of world champion, and at the moment he's looking very, very good indeed. The clock has started up on the left of our screen, you can see on the finishing line area. So the peloton will be able to glance up and see their deficit, although the breakaway won't know. There's Brunio going through. Taffy, they're all still there. Laurent Brochard, number 29, not looking anything the worse with his brief visit to the road at the feeding station. Bakshambi also up near the front half of the peloton. Now white jersey. Little band on the left there, cheering Taffy. Another man who is at last beginning to show us the winning form we all know he's capable of. And it looks so Max is gritting his teeth at the back of the group as it goes over the top. There's a split in the peloton, is that? Minute 42. Well, the gap has come down quite dramatically because of all the shortish activity here, largely by the Italians who have come through towards the end of the lap. Now I think word has reached the front group that there is a change of pace and ideas at the back because the gap is closing. Number 91 is Peter Mulder. Camazin has got himself back onto the front. And Pascal Olivet, as we come towards the end of lap number 12 now. Still the same 12 men. Back on the 9 of the D-Day lap for many of them. We've still got cameras in, doing a lot of the work. Now the boys in blue. And the fact that all of the Italians have got to the front now, and Rominger still taking his lunch break, but having to hang on to a flying train here of Italians who treated the crowd here a couple of days ago. Yesterday, rather, the Under-23 Championship. 4 Italian riders taking 4 places in a magnificent team time trial in the Under-23 race, which was over 10 laps of this circuit. There's the gap, down to 1 minute and 28 seconds now. The boys in blue, I rather like the new Italian strip, I must say. Very simple, not a complicated design, and very easy to pick out. So, from a commentator's viewpoint, first class. Back with the leaders, Ferragato, their own Italian. We've never seen Ferragato do any work in this breakaway, but they haven't had a lot of chance with the work that Camerlin's been doing. They undermarked Ferragato, Johan Uzu, winner of the World Cup last year, right up as leader this year. But it'll be a nervous last couple of races. Although, by the way, Museo said he's not going to ride the last 2 races, and if Ferragato scored, then he will take the World Cup. He's also said, rather surprisingly, Johan Museo, that he's looking to retire. He's getting a little bit tired of riding a bicycle. But there's one Belgian journalist said, he always says that to his family. Well, he's on the breakaway and he hasn't done much, and it is his birthday, so that's a nice incentive today. And Belgium could do with a world champion, let's face it. Eddy Merckx was the greatest, there's no question of that, but what happened after Merckx retired was the sport lost a lot of its publicity and excitement. And wasn't a great sport for a few years, but the Belgians beginning to show signs, especially with Museo and Axel Merckx, of reliving the old halcyon days. Well, if you have to give medals away or match of the day awards, then I think Oscar Cameron's in, who will receive one today for the work he's done in this breakaway. Every lap's a bonus from now on, I would think, for Oscar. He has done so much work. Look at his face now. Ferragato is on his shoulder. On his wheel is Pascal Olivet. At the back here is Klaus Müller, who would dearly like to see Janovic come up at any minute and take some of the pressure off, possibly. Pascal Schotter. When the shoulders go down like that, it looks to me that Pascal might be feeling the pace a little bit now. And this hill, this is actually a brutal climb. It's getting longer every time they go up it. A very good circuit indeed, this, and I think generally liked by the riders. Puccini in 45 on the wheel of Ferragato. Over the top of the climb. Ride is now on the 13th lap of 15. Last gap we had was approximately 1.5 minutes, so we lost a little bit this breakaway. At this stage of the race, though, I suspect it's not a time to panic. It's a time to consolidate the breakaway. Cameras in, whether it's up or down, it doesn't matter. He's still in the front. And there's a workman-like group here, which has got clear of the peloton this time. It's now down to just on a minute. A minute and 2 seconds, and the Italians are moving their men forward. There's 3 Italians certainly in this split, led by the big man himself, Gianni Bugnol. Nicola Bartoli is there. A minute 2 is the gap, so it's looking a little bit precarious for that breakaway of 12 now, and they can't really afford now to let Cameron continue to make the pace. They're going to have to give him a hand, or they're going to be swept up. And I think 1 or 2 names in that breakaway are not going to want to like the thought of letting back into the race now some of the top men. It is below the Italian riders. And Bunyo, I think, has his tail up right now. They're saying now 58 seconds, so it continues to fall. The blue train is on the front. Gianni Bunyo, Claudio Chiappucci, these are the riders now, got themselves into the front group. A little word in the ear, Gianni. And David Rebellin is the other rider who's trying to come up and give them a hand too. Another man who's developed really well this year and found himself. He's in second place at the moment. Looked like a winner of the Giro d'Italia for a long way, and then he cracked up near the end, but even so, he became quite a star in this year's Tour of Italy. He's in the yellow crash helmet. Again, you see, riders have the right to wear or not to wear crash helmets, and the Italians particularly seem to have chosen not to wear them. But they've got themselves a team time trial now. They shut out the rest of the competitors in the chase group in the World Championships. This could fall away if the French too, who certainly have Richard Laurent, I think Luc Leblanc, and certainly Laurent Jalabert up in this group. Laurent Buffon is also here. Now the Swiss are marauding at the back, allowing the Italians to do their work, but not offer them any help. It's a tactic which we often see in professional racing, where the riders trying to slow down the break never mix in with the attacking move. We often see amateur riders trying to get in second wheel or third wheel, causing a lot of nerves.
Okay, the first descenders have started.
To let the chasers get on with the work, and they sit out and watch. And if they do pick up the breakaway, usually try a counter-attack. Hundred marked in the white jersey of Germany. Leonardo in the blue of Italy. Nobody's showing to be really weak in this breakaway. I have to say that, although one or two seem to be struggling on the climb, I feel a good attack by somebody might split this into two groups straight away. But at the moment, they're all content to follow Cameras in. Well, I'm sure by now they have been told that the gap by this chase group is now only a minute behind them. There's Puccini, two-time champion of Switzerland. Chanteur, Delegato, Museu. Well, he's done nothing at all in that breakaway, Museu. But Gianni Bunyo brings them around the corner, licking his lips. Superbly talented rider, twice a world champion. And Moreno Argentin, I think early on I did tell you Moreno Argentin. Bunyo was champion in Colorado Springs, but of course it was Moreno Argentin who's recently retired. And Bunyo, much more recently a world champion, of course, because he picked up his titles in 1991 and 1992 in Germany and in Spain. Let me explain the tactics to you, saying it's quite simple: work together and bring back the breakaway. And quite clearly they haven't got any faith in Andrea Feregato, because all of the Italian teams are into the action at the front of all the Italian riders, rather in the action at the front of that group. This is the leading group. It's still going strong, but sooner or later somebody is going to have to attack, I think. Riders now approaching nearly 6 hours in the saddle. It's time to start the next phase of the World Championship. And it could well be that it's now about to commence here. But the Swiss are the riders who are doing all of the tempting to try and reorganise this leading breakaway. Undermarkt went with them on the right and is going to continue. Being chased by Johan Museo, so Kai Undermarkt attacks. Those big legs pushing a heavy gear, but the man who's quite clearly been paying attention right throughout this breakaway, despite the fact he hasn't been working, is Johan Museo. He's caught the wheel of Undermarkt. He's looked over to see if anybody else is going to join them. There's a counter-attack coming. I think it's Hervé. And somebody on his wheel, might be Feregato. We'll check them out as they come up. It's Feregato, in fact. who is now the first man to join. No, there he is. Hervé was just in the crowd line. He's on the wheel and it's all over. Gianetti comes across. Cameras in. Fedegato. But they have split the group here. There's only 7 of them left. Puccini is gone. The Danish riders have both gone. Peter Menet and Klaus Moller. So they've been dropped on the climb and might get back on the descent. You may remember the very, very lucky riding by Linda Jackson in the women's race. What an excellent race that was, won by Barbara Heed. But in fact, Linda was in that 3-woman breakaway, constantly dropped on the climbs and clawed her way back up each time. And deservedly took the bronze medal in the end for Canada. Just a award for a very determined lady. And this is another attack, and this time Museo is now trying to hurt them as Hervé is dropped to chase him down, followed by 100 marked. And Museo, having counted the first move, is now trying to hit them again on the second climb.
Oh, my quads are burning.
Staring at them and saying, well, come and get me. And they have. And a good time to attack is on the capture, 100 marked. He must be feeling very, very strong today to go again. The 100 marked is gone. These riders have eliminated not half of the break, but not far off. I think there's 5 men who have gone. And this counter-attacking is going to prevent them getting back on. 100 mark keeps going, looks pretty cool. Pascal catches up with him, stage winner in the Giro this year, as well as the Tour de France. And leader briefly. Now Gianetti is having a little dig on the road now. He's going to see if all of these attacks has weakened anybody. As Gianetti quickly shadowed by 100 marks. Fedegato tries desperately to latch on over the top of the Crespina. Well, this is about 4 kilometres or so, slightly more from what will be the finishing line. But at the end of the lap at the moment. Here comes the chase group, and that series of counter-attacks in the breakaway has pulled out a few more seconds. 65 seconds now over the top of the clock. And sitting at the back there, Rocky Brochon. I'm not sure whether he was in there all the time, but he's actually coming on from there's a second group on the road. Down in the town. 65 seconds to gap. And that's Puccini. The white crash helmet, so he may have got back to the breakaway. This looks like Cloud will be pushing out. This is turning out to be quite a race here, because we often do see breakaways go clear in the World Championship, but they really are just for the ride rather than the victory. But I think there's a real sense now in that chase group that the breakaway may have already have gone in this year's World Championship. It's turning out to be quite a tough chase back. Fedegato. It's really, I think it is sitting at the back. Descent on the road surface, nice and wide. Of course, those white lines feared by all. It had been raining down here, but thankfully it isn't.
Sometimes
still really at the back, and Fedegato is up the line. The Italians are
effort doesn't match
feeling a little bit
the actual route itself.
Move by Claudio.
For example,
goes too quickly for anybody to keep up with him, and then he looks
the brief moment there,
says,
I was putting that more watts per kilo than the rider directly ahead of me. And yet he was gaining ground, even though I had a draft.
Puccini, so a little regrouping here.
Same thing happens on that Powder Mountain that used as recovery rides.
Previous years that he finished second in the World Cup. He's currently the leader in the World Cup. But even
now,
he's complaining about the World Cup.
do a turbo
Because
boost.
he doesn't have a sponsor,
I
there's
found
no
a 6
prize
up the
for
kilo.
that. And one can understand his complaints.
And then the guy who always wins these races, Primark,
This is the breakaway still.
he flies
Still
past
the
me
same names that have been
as
out
I'm
there
standing
for an
still.
awful long time.
We're doing like 0.1,
Seeing a little bit
0.2
missing
up
now,
per
the
kilo.
two Danish riders and the very heroic Kamazin, they've gone. 3, 6, 7 Italians. There were 12 starters for Italy, 7 are chasing and 2 are in the breakaway. So we can get some idea now as Falazin starts the pacemaking. Gianni Falazin. Behind him is Rebelin. And there we saw, just picked up one of the Danish riders from the breakaway, so they begin to take encouragement from that as they're starting to wipe out the riders who were dropped from the leading group. Still around about the 1 minute the difference, back into the feeder game. As we now head on towards the end of lap number 13.
Yeah, I need to keep on stopping and standing for a second because the bike saddle is uncomfortable, it's hurting me.
Miguel Cuesta Lopez from Spain, hasn't seen him for a little while. Which really means now we have 7 riders in the lead in the World Championship as they come towards the end of the 13th lap. That means they've done 218 kilometres. 136 miles under the legs, or under the wheels and in the legs today. And nearly 40 kilometres, nearly 41 kilometres an hour this lap. As they go through, led by Fabrizio and Guidi, all the way under Mark Gianetti, Puccini, Dale and Pellegato. They are the only riders left now in this group. There's no more the pacemaker. He's gone and Donny stuck because his 2 teammates with a better reputation are still in that lead group. Clearly the Italians are not happy with Guidi and Pellegato being in the breakaway. With 13 laps to go, gone rather, and 2 laps remaining. Surely they must be giving 2 riders a chance now. Certainly Guidi here is not interested in the fact that his team is chasing him down as he continues. On to the first time of the lap with Camano. Over the top at 3 kilometres on the circuit, and only a short one. Just one more time up here. Pellegato sitting there at the back while his teammate Guidi sets the pace and keeps it nice and high. Castelleve has been very impressive here, but he really is not a man to win from this quality of breakaway. He's not a sprinter for sure, and there's no real hill to crack them on and stay away until the finish, and that might be what the French are thinking as well. Time check around about 55-56 seconds. And now Guidi, you see, has done all of the work on this climb, and so quite clearly he's had a chat with Pellegato, and Pellegato sitting at the back and taking advantage of the pacemaking is the Italian who may be dreaming of a rainbow jersey. This is Guidi, but he's kept the pace up and good for him. Pascal Hervé on his wheel, kind of under Mark, he looked very strong when he counted and then called the number of moves on the previous lap. Looks very, very strong indeed. He's having a good day, that's for sure. And you could say that the Telecom team are having a good year, couldn't you? First and second in Tour de France with Bjorn Riis and Ulrich. And still, Guidi continues to set the pace. Just one more time up this mountain, and that's what we must realise right now. Pascal Hervé is keeping his concentration. Not really a climber, but he can certainly reduce some of the rides on a circuit designed for a strong man, I think, rather than a pure climber circuit. The crowd is cheering now on this climb for just over 5 hours and 40 minutes. still Bunyard. Still setting the pace. Strange you can see Italian doing his best to keep the breakaway in the lead, and another Italian doing his best to bring them back into the pack. And there's the switch as we go back to Hamza Guidi. And I think Guidi has finally decided he's going to have to slow down, and Pascal Hervé is itching to get up on the shoulder, but not too willing to get into the lead. I think he'll find something there might be not very short, but Guidi is beginning to slow. Schedule, so just on 20 miles left to go, to be fair miles, 32 kilometres. Which means about 40 minutes still to ride. And this breakaway may well have decided this race even yet, because the Italians are having an awful job and they're committing a lot of strength with a lot of big hitters back there, and they're not getting up. Johan Museeuw sits at the back without a length off, just sitting up there on the soft pedal. He went over the top of the Crespida. There's the hairpin bend. Iron on the right, not quite so difficult on the left. But the gap, you can see the relationship now. It's hard to believe that was in fact a 58-second gap. So they will come down a little bit. The attack here has gone on the break, and this is Johan Museeuw who's gone. Now Museeuw is making his move on the penultimate lap. It's a long way to go for the man we usually consider as a strong sprinter at the end of a tough race. But Museeuw has sat at the back for the whole of this breakaway, and now he's giving it some real stick here. He must have sensed that main field of the chase group rather is closing in rapidly. It's time to have a new selection. And so the World Cup holder and the World Cup leader, Johan Museeuw of Belgium, has launched an attack now. Has he skipped the field or will they get across? Here comes the counter move. Mauro Gianetti sits at the back. Tight onto mark number 76. Pascal Hervé. And I think a little bit of cracking there by the rider, Fabrizio Guidi. Big chainring, little sprocket. And this is a power now, a power climb by Johan Museeuw, but he's looked over his shoulder, he's seen he has shaken out a couple of riders, but the others that look as though they're going to reach him. And the first one's going to be Mauro Gianetti, who's now dubbing very deep, 100 marks got his wheel. And Ferregato is the rider who's tacked on the back. So all of the work done on the climb by Guidi, for Ferregato, and he's still on the back and they're coming across. But Guidi looks as though he's gone. Museeuw now waiting to see just how many have answered the call. In fact, it looks as though only one, because this is Gianetti who's been allowed to get clear over the top of the climb. Gianetti powerhouses across. Gianetti comes across. Johan Museeuw takes his wheel with ease. Now normally Johan would look over and check to see if anybody else is coming, but I think there was a little bit of a shock to him that he's gone through and he's going to work with Mauro Gianetti. Well, that's in fact was an unlucky change of camera there, because this is Andrea Ferregato, not Mauro Gianetti. And the two Italians in a little bit all at sea now. Well, this has not been a race for the Italians, has it? The two Italians in the breakaway tried to make the move. They've been shaken out by, first of all, Johan Museeuw, and almost overshooting there, Mauro Gianetti. 32 years of age, he's got all the experience you can imagine, 10 seasons as a pro. In fact, he's racing his 11th year this year as a professional. Mauro Gianetti, not one of the big winners in the world. He's probably won around about 10 races in those 10 years, in the 10 full seasons he's ridden. But he certainly has produced some good rides. So Mauro Gianetti, 4th in Flèche Wallonne, 3rd in the Liège-Bastogne-Liège. He won the Liège-Bastogne-Liège last year. And now riding himself back into the form, which he hopes will carry him through to the end of Japan World Cup, where he said he is riding that. Well, that was a good move by Museeuw. The Belgians have waited a long time to cheer the winner. And I think if he stays away, he won't feel too worried about Mauro Gianetti, but riding, of course, Gianetti doesn't jump in on the last climb of the Crespera, because if he does, then of course there'll be no chance for Johan to use his sprint. But he made a complete, well, I would like to say he did it himself actually in the recent Paris Tours race, because he led out so early, he had no chance of getting any World Cup points. He faded, of course, in a big rush for the line, and he made a mistake and got nothing. And that, on the day when he could have stitched up the World Cup, he completely threw it away and handed it back to Bartoli and Ferragato, still within a chance of winning the World Cup and taking it away from Museo. Museo having already said he's no wish to ride in Lombardy or in Japan. Mind you, he didn't really want to ride in the World Championships, so he had a good time. But there he is, he's riding, and he's now in with a real chance on his birthday, let's remember, when he's 31 years of age, of winning the world title. The last world champion was Rudy Garland in Utsunomiya in Japan in 1990. And I had the pleasure of being the first person to him with a television camera, and I say, congratulations Rudy, you're the world champion, to which his response was to burst out crying, and I don't blame him. I think we were all crying in the end, got so emotional. So Johan Museo seems to have refound his enthusiasm for the sport only a few days ago he lost. And I take my hats off to the Swiss this week. They have risen to the occasion. They've been in the action and given the Swiss fans something to shout about at every event in the World Championship Series. And now we've got the big one, the Blue Ribbon of World Cycling, the World Road Race Championship. And again, they've got a Swiss rider in at the kill. I think they'll be feeling a little unsure he can take the Rainbow Journey. They will hope he can jump away on the last 5 if they stay clear. This is what's left of the breakaway. And Puccini there sitting in the back having a drink and enjoying watching the 200 riders in the chase. They're far from safe, by the way. The bunch is still, this is the return of the 2 Italians. Ferragato, who is doing the pacemaking at the moment. This is actually Andre Tappi who's coming up here. These are men from the back who are joining the front. This is a complete change around here, because they are reaching what was left of the breakaway. This is quite amazing in the end, because this is a total switch around here. So the arm changes in the back, and very shortly that breakaway I think is going to be wiped out by the chase group, because the Italians are reaching the quarry. They will know then that other Italians, Ferragato, have been washed away from the lead, and they will also have been told, no doubt, by Ferragato or Guidi, that these 2 have gone clear. Mauro Gianetti, a local man, and also, of course, a native of Switzerland, is going to get a lot of applause here now, all the way around. While Johan Museo, the winner of Paris-Roubaix this year, a controversial end indeed, yes, because there were 2 riders on the same team. We can't call it a sprint finish, because they decided the order across the line, and it went like this. We went away for Johan Museo, Gianluca Bortolami, who later crashed in the summer and broke his elbow in the Giro d'Italia, and in 3rd place Andre Tappi, who has since come good and got his first big classic win. That was the order in Paris-Roubaix way back in April, and many Americans who joined us at World Cycling Productions on a cycling holiday were there to witness it, and we had a great time. You won't find Gianetti now reducing the work rate. This is a man, a silver medal would be a good one. That was a brief glimpse, I think, of Fabio Guidi, who just sailed backwards. This is the breakaway now being driven on as the Italians have changed their colours at the front. And the Tappi is up there now. And of that breakaway, the Italians have still got to do a lot of work to pull back these 2. The gap is on for sure. Mauro Gianetti won the World Championship for the first time in 1988 and finished 5th. In the same year, in fact, finished 7th in the Tour of Switzerland. But in his first 2 years as a professional, he only ever won one event, and that was in his first season back in 1966.
And who's got up ahead?
1986, I'm sorry.
Ultra.
He's not quite as old as that. There's nothing when you look at the faces of these two, they're telling us nothing at all, are they? They're both climbing very, very strong indeed. Last big climb out of the Crespera, and then it's on to the finish. And finally, they'll hear the bell, and it's 1 lap to go. 1 lap of 16.8 kilometres, just over 10 miles. He goes to the 100th mark. It looks like it's goodbye to Pascal Levey. He's got nothing here. The tuning is gone. Here's the gap. Marked, and he finished 4th in the World Championships at Stuttgart. But now looks as though he's not going to be able to control the affairs here. And Andrea Tappi, determined to reach those leaders, has come through, and he's still got a fresh pair of legs, it seems. On the inside ring, with a lot of fight here, and Andrea Tappi now starts to move clear in pursuit in 3rd place. What a great climax this is going to be to the World Championships. Andrea Tappi, the rider I first saw when stage, and I'd never heard of him. It was towards the Americas a few years ago. And now, this year, the winner of Paris-Brussels, his first big classic win. He started out as a pro back in 1989 when he won a stage of the Tour of Luxembourg. And now Richard Virenque for the first time. The French haven't had things going their own way at all in this World Championship, yet the strong men have all been there watching and waiting. Now they've seen Pascal Levey in trouble, they're going to have to do something about it. All of the cheers, not surprisingly, reserved now for the local man, Mauro Gianetti. Johan Museeuw, his only worry at the moment, and it's a big one, because Museeuw will feel very confident he can beat Gianetti in the sprint. Well, in fairness, Museeuw not a great sprinter as you get older, and you get older today, because he's very, you tend to lose your speed and you become more of a stayer. The stamina takes over, and you're a better long-distance cyclist. It happened to Sean Kelly as well, when he wasn't a great sprinter over the last few years of his career, but he often won races by breaking away. Over the top of the Crespera again. Here's the style of Andrea Tappi. Another 30-year-old in the race. Now he was getting the 3rd place he didn't want in Paris-Roubaix. Now comes up, and look at the gap. He is flying over the top here. 22 seconds down, and Tappi could be the surprise world champion if he gets across. He's obviously strong. Kai 100 mark, again enjoying a world championship of quality. He goes over in 4th place. Remember, it's one more climb the Crespera yet. And in fact, the Frenchman here, is it Pascal Levey? It looks like it might be. Levey and Puccini. But that breakaway has been blown across the hillsides here at Lugano, and is now taking on Necessary Love, who is slipping away. And he's lost almost a minute. Mikel Bartoli here in front of Laurent Jalabert. And it looked as though the little rider there for Spain was Escartin, who's trying to pedal across the gap in 3rd slot. Bartoli and Jalabert looking pretty cool. Richard Virenque is also there. Bunyo, Bobby Julich has got into this very hot selected group. So good ride by Bobby Julich, the leader of the USA team in the event today. The other riders in with the orders to make sure Julich could be in at the kill, and he might well be yet, because that group is closing down. Penultimate descent back down into Lugano. Museeuw sets the pace. little bit less confident on the descents. Mauro Gianetti with the Belgian rider. That's the situation. Tappy is coming. 100 mark has been passed by Tappy. And these last 2 years that Andrea Tappy has turned in from a hot domestic into a team leader. Here he is. Must be feeling well. There's a medal awaiting him next time around. And will it be gold? He can just get across this gap. He's giving it a lot of heavy speed down here. He's not riding the corners too well, I must say. And he must know these roads pretty good now, having done it 14 times so far today. So there's Gianetti, flying proud in a white cross of the Swiss flag. As the top pros ride for their countries, and quite often it causes split loyalties because any other day they might even ride on the same team. But on this one day they ride for the country and not expected to help out teammates of their trade team. This is the finishing straight, but if they stay away, Museo will see a difficult straight to judge. It's not completely straight, there's not a kink in it, but it's a kilometre to go. It's a sprinter's finish, but it calls for absolutely inch-perfect judgment, otherwise you run out of steam before the line. So it's best not to mention Paris Tours to Museo right now because he blew that one in a big way. And this is the chase by Tappy. He's now in the same straight. He'll begin to see the little gaggle of cars around the two leaders. Andrea Tappy on the stage of the Tour of Britain back in 1990. In the summer of the same year, he won 2 stages of the Tour of America, or Americas, down in Florida. Now, the move for France is it? Because they've got themselves organised with Renke Jalabert. But I'm not too sure about that, but there is the winner of the Tour de France in at the selection now too. Bjorn Ries has got up here. Well, they're leaving it late, but it could be a grandstand finish. Approaching the finishing line, the bell this time. At this moment, just about 17 kilometres left to ride. As they come up to the line, just on 6 hours of riding, we're going to get a time check now across the board. Huge cheer for Mauro Gianetti. Johan Museo is back, probably teeming with excitement now. The chase down coming from the Italian, Andrea Tappy. And a reorganisation of the chase group here. They've slowed it right down. They're going to throw this away if they continue like this. Escartine dancing away on the wheel of Jalabert, who looks a little bit frustrated. Bjorn Ries is up in the 3rd place to the feed here, but the gap is still big, at least between this group and the 2 leaders. Tappy is the one who can give us the problem. Well, not give us the problem, I suppose. Certainly give the Swiss-Belgian tandem a little bit of trouble. 1 minute 6 seconds. That was Hervé goes through. They are still caught in between. Now this is the group here, led by Jalabert. Bartoli. Romigan is still in here too. 1:21 to Bartoli. Bobby Julich leads over the best of the rest. A great ride by Bobby. So Julich riding with superb confidence after that superb ride he put up in the Tour of Spain. 22 seconds to Tappy, and Gianetti looks over his shoulder. They must know. Museo also looks over his shoulder just to make sure, because nobody asking the rider alongside. He'll probably tell you lies anyway. They're on the climb of Camano. And here comes Tappy, the Italian who twigged on. There's still a chance. Excuse me, sir, the barriers. I've got you. And that man should play for Britain in the Rugby Championship. So, Tappy, will he reach it? What a great finish for Andrea Tappy if he could. Richard Lorenz in the pace. Barty, little man behind him. This climb, I wonder. I don't think Gianetti will go on this one, but he's got to go on the next one. the Crespin if he wants to beat Museo. Otherwise it will go back, advantage Museo. Museo knows that he's not going to offer any help at all here to Gianetti, because he knows if he gets in front of him, Gianetti will probably jump in from behind. So this has been a fine ride by Museo, whichever way it goes, you know, because here he's ridden a crafty ride in the breakaway. He's no energy at all. He's found himself in the move. A lot of young cyclists could take a lesson from Johan Museo today. This is the chase. Now he looks straight ahead. He might even see them now, you know. On around about 20 seconds, 24 is confirmed, so in fact he's being pegged here by a fine piece of riding by Mauro Gianetti, who's climbing very, very well today. You see still another attack here coming from Bahrain. Axel Merckx has got his wheel. And Merckx has done a great job for Museo. He's blocked whenever he could every attack, while showing for me the strength that might well put him into a medal slot, should the breakaways be caught. Bunyo is there as well. Over the top of Camano. Sitting right back on the saddle. Mauro Gianetti goes round the roundabout, where the graffiti artist has had a field day. Further down the slope, Gianni Bunyo, Richard Bahrain, Axel Merckx are going clear. Bunyo has also ridden well today. Even so, a little bit frustrated by the way it's worked out for the Italians. Gianetti never even asked for the help of Johan Museo. He knows the situation. He knows Museo will not help him. Gianetti will be seen as the climber, Museo as the sprinter. Into his inside ring now, Museo. The need for the big ring not quite so necessary, because it was needed for the attack that broke up the breakaway. But now it's a matter of conserving just enough strength to take the world title if Tappy doesn't zoom up at any moment. I think it's down to 3 now. I don't think anybody else will reach them. Tappy, even his chances are beginning to look a little bit thin because he's not coming quick enough. And here, the Italian is ready with his flag for Andrea Tappy. But I think the gap is opening up, and it's all because of the climbing of Mauro Gianetti. And what a great crowd this has been. Cheering the riders every inch of the way. The organisation will feel they've put on a good show this week, and they certainly have done just that. They've been blessed with very good weather on the whole. But the riders I know, particularly Johan Museo, doesn't like the season going quite so long, taking the World Championships into the month of October, and the second week of October at that. They feel it's making the season just that little bit too long. I think what we're going to see in the future is riders planning their whole racing year with holiday break-offs in between. And so you'll see riders do well early on and then literally take time out for 3 or 4 weeks and then start to come back and build up for the world title events. Others will ride the Tour de France and forget the World Championships. But I think that's the only way these riders are going to survive now what is a tremendously long year at the top level of racing, a sport which has now become even harder than before, I think. This has been a very, very fast championship today. The average speed isn't going to be far away for the whole distance of 40 kilometres an hour. There is Tappy. He's forced to climb on his big chain wheel. But I don't think he's going to catch up now. Look at the clock. Maybe the French will pull the way back into this, but I don't think they're going to get up to the leader now. This is Richard Bahrain. Bunyo can't really, can he? Not when Tappy is still up there, and he's just seen that. I think it's Nicola Bartoli rejoins, so the 2 Italians now. As Richard Bahrain nips over the cobbles. It looks as though Richard again is going to fly the French Open, the World Championship. He won a medal in it last year. Well, 2 years ago actually. The time flies. He won it in Italy when he got the bronze medal behind Claudio Chiappucci and Luc Leblanc, who became the world champion. Then he had Laurent Wissac here. because his sponsors pulled out of the sport. Well, that's another story. This is the story of this year's World Championship now, with Mauro Gianetti. Never afraid to work. Johan Museeuw looks as though he's trying to dodge the workload even on the descent here. I don't think Johan is riding that well, but he knows if he can contain Gianetti, he should produce the power sprint that would take away a rainbow jersey at a time when he would least expect it. No fire day, of course, on your birthday. And an acceleration now by Museeuw. Not exactly waiting for Gianetti, but he is now. He's sat down. Gianetti takes a break. But Museeuw not wanting to do a lot of work here. I haven't seen a team car come up, but I would presume that somebody, maybe Merckx particularly, would have told Museeuw the chase by Tapie looks as though it's foundering. Heading down. It's going to be a very nervous finish now, especially for Mauro Gianetti, who hasn't been able to do anything at all about Johan Museeuw. No signs and no further news on the whereabouts of Andrea Tapie, so that's an indication that he has held or lost ground. We know there is a group coming up. Lorenk is in there, so to Axel Merckx, Gianni Bugno. No further news there at the moment either. But now they are saying in 54 seconds now is the gap to Andrea Tapie, so he's out. He may well get the bronze medal, but he's out of the race for gold, and the championship of the world now lies between these two, and Johan Museeuw, I think, can afford just that slight chance of dreaming. He checks over his shoulder, 55 seconds.
Okay, so I'm only racing for shoot tonight, same as yesterday's race, because there's a reasonable amount of elevation to gain.
There's a little bit of a time check coming from the neutral service Mavic. But both riders understand French, so they both know the gap.
At the moment, any racers that are under 800 metres elevation are not worthwhile for me.
So Museeuw was the man who had a dig on the climb of the Camano. Gianetti was the man who was inspired enough to bring him back on his own in the end. It seemed at first there was going to be a group, and it wasn't. Gianetti was the only one.
Because I need to be averaging around 10,000 metres a week.
The gaggle of cars up ahead, you know, I think these drivers are catching Andrea Tapie. There's a confirmation of this group, but I think Tapie is just up the road. He is. So Andrea Tapie is being caught. Can he hang on for that bronze medal? We've gone back to the leaders now and licking his lips in anticipation. Johan Museeuw of Belgium. The two most recent world champions from Belgium, Claude Coquillon and Rudy Darnans. Coquillon winning at Barcelona in 1984. Gianetti. Only is what we will be thinking. He could be the world champion. The most revered jersey of them all, the Mario jersey, Arc-en-Ciel, the rainbow jersey. And winning it when you live very close to this circuit will be something really special. But I think, although my heart may be with Gianetti, I think it's going to be a near impossibility. Little attack there on Richard Lorenk from Nicola Bartoli, because Bartoli was not received, of course, to be catching up with his teammate Andrea Tapie. Well, I think he'd be doing a fair bit of chasing in that group. The Italians deciding that if you can't win the gold, then you race for yourself and take what you can by the look of it, because there's Bartoli now taking across Lorenk and Merckx, two pretty dangerous riders, to the back wheel of Andrea Tapie. So now there are 4 chasers and 2 leaders. Bartoli also developing now into being a great rider. Italians, you can have so many of them. They've virtually dominated the classics this year. So in the lead, Mauro Gianetti, and here's Eddie Merckx again now. He must be feeling he could be managing the world champion. And he'll be talking to Jose in Flemish, and I doubt whether Gianetti will understand. Still, we have the 4 chases, and let's not forget that Eddie Merckx' son Axel is in that chase group, and Merckx must be feeling very, very proud indeed. Merckx himself the world champion, one of the youngest ever at both amateur and professional. Just the last climb, the nervous moments for Johan Museeuw, who doesn't know quite how strong, and neither do we for that matter, Gianetti is. The Crespera could decide this championship. At this stage of the World Championship back in 1953, there were no such worries for Fausto Coppi. He was already 6 minutes ahead of the rest. And just about 50 riders spread around the course here in Nagano remaining in this World Championship today. That's sort out coming around about lap number 9 in the first breakaway built up, and then the last couple of laps have been ambitious. Attack and counter-attack. There's a quality chase group, we've seen it, but I don't think it's going to get up to easy now. Merckx knows that he's got the charge here of a man likely to take the World Championship. His son, here he is, number 53, is in the chase group. Nobody expects Axel to be as great as his dad. That would be impossible to imagine. I don't think anybody in the world will be as great as his dad was ever again. But they do want to see him succeed. It's been a big responsibility to carry the name of Merckx on the programs of races around the world this year. He's had a win, and he's starting to show the quality of a real bike rider. But right now he's playing the ace role of defending for Johan Museeuw, who is now going to keep control of Mauro Gianetti on this climb. Mauro really could do with a little bit more spring in his legs and acceleration, because if he just sets tempo like this on the Crespera, and then Johan Museeuw will have no trouble at all following his wheel. He's got to lift the pace and try and crack Museeuw. And Museeuw knows that he can just hold on to his saddle. He'll win the world title in the sprint. That's how confident he will feel now. And this is a very steady climb here by Gianetti. 53 seconds to Merckx and Co. That's enough. They will be catching these two now. Once we're over the top of the Crespera, then we're just looking at 4.5 kilometres to the finish. Gianetti took a little look at Johan Museeuw. I don't think his face will have given much away, but he sat back in the saddle. I think at that point he may well have resigned as to going down to the sprint. Well, he hasn't. He's certainly conveying that impression to Johan Museeuw at the moment. Forward there from the helpers on the roadside as well as the spectators, but witnessing here a great breakaway by Gianetti now further down the Crespera. There's a little bit of action from Bartolo. Tappi was holding on, but still keeping his composed rhythm. No error from Johan Museeuw. He's got his man where he wants him, and he's going to keep him there. He knows he's got the buffer of the best part of a minute. He's too experienced for a rider, having won the stage of the Tour de France, the Green Jersey of the Tour de France, the World Cup, and the lead of the World Cup. He knows all about pro bike riding. He's without doubt Belgium's #1 cyclist, and he's now making a serious bid to become the world #1. And this is from a rider who announced he was going to give up cycling just a few days ago. You can't give up now. The summit of the Crespera, the longest and toughest climb of the circuit. A massive crowd waiting to see who will be first up. You see the road and the last little drag it is up towards the summit. It's a backbreaker really. They've now climbed it 15 times. Gianetti, at Is this the acceleration? No. A little bit of lift to speed perhaps, yes, but no trouble at all for Museu. Sorry about a little bit of bump with the pictures, but that's due to interference from the helicopter signals from the motorbikes, which is pretty good today. And this massive crowd straight forward now and they ask themselves the question, can Mauro Gianetti finish off a great World Championships for Switzerland, and in fact a great cycling scene in the little country as well? We'll soon know now, because the finish is not that far away. Here they come side by side, the two men who for the last 2 laps, Despardo, have been partners in the World Road Race Championship, and in fact Johan Museu took a good look at Mauro Gianetti and decided now he has no further worries on this climb, because he's continued to go forward. He's forced Gianetti on his wheel. That will go around the world. We're going to come over the top of the Crespera. And now we're looking at 4.8 kilometres to the finish. No sign of anybody chasing through that lovely crowd that's enjoyed a brilliant World Championship. In fact, all of the World Championships here have been of extraordinary quality this year. The Swiss should be proud of themselves, as organisers as well as athletes. This is Anderson attacking, it's gone by, I think Bartoli has gone, he's been chased immediately by Axel Merckx. They're going round Richard Virenque, he's Andrea Tappi, he's still got some fight in those legs, but that is Nicola Bartoli who's gone, and Merckx has gone for him. And surprisingly, Richard Virenque hasn't got the power there. He's labouring on the back wheel of a non-climber in Andrea Tappi. Remember what Virenque won the King of the Mountain in the Tour de France for a 3rd year in succession, the first time since Claudio Chieffacci that that has been achieved. But Virenque now is finding the seat also a little bit long. Cox counting down, 1 second, and now to Nicola Bartoli and Axel Merckx, a little bit further back to Andrea Tappi and Richard Virenque. Virenque in fact has got the lead there over Tappi if they go through. But there's even a gap here on the way down. I did say earlier that Mauro Gianetti is not the best of descenders, and he's allowing an awful lot of gap to Johan Museu on the way down towards the line. So Museu will also, of course, takes a few more risks than Mauro. We saw Mauro almost overshoot earlier on a bend, on the left-hand bend it was as well. So a little bit nervous going down. There's the gaps, a minute 1 to 2 chases, a minute 10 to Virenque and Tappi. Here comes a very disconsolate Jalabert, shakes his head, well, he's saying the World Championship still already going down over 2 minutes back. Balladry is still there. Goes over the tail of that very select 3rd group on the road now. Behind the 2 leaders, and there they are. Gianetti is back, and Gianetti now is going to gamble on being number 2 rider till they spot that finish, and then we'll both on the sprint, I suspect. Museu might have a different idea. They've got such a lead now. There is a chance they could afford to slow right down and manoeuvre each other into the position they want, but you mustn't do that for too long because the chase group could wipe you out. Museu and Gianetti, I suspect the 2 respective leaders of the country teams in this year's World Championship. Incredibly successful performance of the former roller, Johan Museu, now aiming to finish off a terrific career as a world champion. Finish off probably a lot well, but he does win it, he must go off in comfort time. The Belgians would allow him to. He's just making sure that the right behind are sneaking up. He's going to sit on the shoulder of Gianetti. No, he's not. Gianetti wants his back wheel, he's going to offer it to him. And he mustn't think about the mischief finish of Paris Tours. Right now, he'll have all the confidence he requires over Gianetti. You won't expect him to beat him, but you know, complacency often means the other man gets the better of you. Gianetti will be looking for something of a miracle as he sits in the right position. Very often as you approach the finish, the top sprinters do manoeuvre the other man into the lead. They use their experience, but it seems here that Museu isn't worried about that. There's the kilometre. This time they really mean it. After 15 laps, of the World Championship. We have done 251 kilometres. There is just one left to go now. The clock has gone through 6 hours and 22 minutes. There we go. 6 hours and 24 minutes to fly. Gianetti done everything possible. He is such a plucky rider. Now sitting on the wheel of Museo, but nobody sneaks up from behind, and here they come. They're approaching the kilometre. Merckx on the wheel of Bartoli. There might even be a medal here for Axel Merckx, as Bartoli's done all of the pacemaking. There's the gap. It is that close. It is less than half a minute, I think. But even so, it's not going to work out now. Slower and slower. Those two riders behind are closing in. We're going to the pits. A grandstand for all of the helpers. They're going to see not the riders speed through snatching bottles this time, but two riders going extremely slowly towards the line. Gambling everything. Gianetti will not come over Museo until the last possible moment, and Museo will just watch his every move. Museo, a man who's won on the track at Paris-Roubaix. He knows all about these sorts of finishes, and he was watching at the right time as Gianetti goes for the shortest way round to the line. Gianetti now, has he got the inspiration of a Swiss rider? But no, look at the speed of Johan Museo. Johan Museo is the world champion, 1996. There is the time, 6:23:49, almost 40 kilometres an hour. The sprint not very much further down the road, being acted now by four riders, and Bartoli, Merckx, Virenque and Tapie, and it looks as though the challenge will have to be happy with the bronze, or can Merckx get off Bartoli's wheel out of this corner? This has been a great ride by Axel Merckx, but an inspired sprint by Nicola Bartoli. He gets bronze for Italy. Axel Merckx, a brilliant fourth. Richard Virenque, fifth to France. Andrea Tapie gets sixth place for Italy. Now back to the next group here. This is the race now for seventh place. Surely Jalabert, disgusted as he may be, will try and finish this up. Bobby Julich has got the wheel of Tony Rominger here. Julich continues to become a star of the future as he now heads the line, racing for seventh place. As they come up to the line, though, it is going to be right on the line. On the inside was Laurent Jalabert from David Rebellin. And I think Tony Rominger, Julich was in there. He lost a bit in the sprint, but he might scrape into a top 12 finish. This is the sprint in slow motion now. You see the power of the true sprinter of the breakaway, Johan Museo. He knew at this point the world title was his. You have to feel sorry for Mauro Gianetti, but why should we? He's finished second in the World Championship. He comes from Switzerland. He comes, in fact, from a town not very far away from here in Lugano, and the silver medal shouldn't be that disappointing to him. But the gold has gone to Belgium for only the third time since Claudia Coquillon won way back in 1984. So a rainbow jersey goes home to Belgium. That'll do a lot for the sport there. The Swiss have seen a great World Championships, and there are the three medal winners. A disappointment, I think, on Mauro Gianetti's face, but he shouldn't feel too bad. The Swiss certainly won't. They've had a great time. Imer Bruggen, the president of the Unicycliste Internationale. Congratulations for Mauro Gianetti as he gives him the silver medal. The bronze will go to Nicola Bartoli. The Italians again riding a very strange race, as did the French. It all worked out so well for the Belgian winner on his birthday, Johan Museo. There is Nicola Bartoli. Looks a little bit disappointed, but why should he? Third in Paris-Brussels, second in the Grand Prix of Swiss this year, eighth in the Olympic Games, and of course the winner of the great classic, the Tour of Flanders, which in fact saw the demise there of Johan Museo. What a strange sport this is. I hope you've enjoyed it. I'm Phil Liggett saying from Switzerland and the World Cycling Championships, goodbye for now, with a reminder of a great man winning the World Championship for Belgium, Johan Museo. And a day also when the great Eddy Merckx saw his son Axel Merckx take fourth place. Lugano has told us many tales, even better I think than when they were last here in 1953. Goodbye.
There's an 80-year-old person in that race who finished in an hour and 12 minutes. So 10 minutes faster than me. So either their age is incorrect or they are cheating. There's no way an 18-year-old can get 12 days.
Hello and welcome to a rather dreary countryside here in the west of France, in Brittany, in the beautiful little town of Plouay, a hotbed of world cycling, and this week has been the venue for all of the World Cycling Road Championships, right through from juniors to the elite. It's the elite we're going to look at today, bringing together a rather small field of 158 riders representing 30 nations. They cover a course of 14 plus kilometres, and they'll cover that course 19 times.
This course, Phil, many of these riders know because it's based on the same course as the Grand Prix of Plouay, the race in the west of France, which was won this year by Michele Bartoli. But the French will all be cheering for their own country today. There's Richard Virenque on the start line, and it will be certainly a great festival of cycling.
Doesn't show any signs of the worry he must be feeling, because he's in court very shortly in Lille when the Festina affair will reach its climax. There is the president of the World Cycling Body, the UCI, waiting for the OK from the timekeeper, Hein Verbruggen, and he's about to fire the gun, and away they go, 158 riders. The field has never been as big as it was pre the holding of these World Championships towards the end of August, first week of September, and even today there are big names missing, like Jan Ullrich, the Olympic champion, is not here, neither is Alex Zülle, there are only two, and of course Lance Armstrong, but he has always said he wouldn't come.
He's always been very much against the World Championships in the latter part of the season, and it really does restrict, Phil, the number of places in the world where they can hold the World Championships, because in the northern part of Europe, as we go towards the end of October, we really will face wintry conditions.
Hardly seems a year ago in Verona when Oscar Freire, the Spanish rider who started on the front of the bunch there, became the world champion. It was a surprise, but since then he's notched 9 wins, so he's a well-known rider in the peloton now. On that occasion he beat Marcus de Berg and Jean-Cyril Robin of France. The field then will by tradition start slowly and build up, and the survivors, well, they'll fight out the race for the rainbow jersey.
On a course like this, I would expect this race to get blown to pieces towards the end, because this is a very difficult course. Although only 14 kilometres around, it really is the repetitive nature of these slopes on the climbs here at Plouay which will blow the race to pieces. And as always, we can expect the big rivalries to come between France and Italy.
Okay.
Just listen to the crowd here. This is a wonderful area. They're cycling mad. It's a fabulous place to have World Championships. But how much nicer would it be in warm sunshine? Because everybody here today has got their Wellington boots on and their overcoats, while the riders themselves have got foot warmers, as you can see, long sleeves, and some of them starting, as the rider on the left there, in long-fingered gloves as well.
Well, the Spaniards will be looking to be a dominant team in the early part of this event, because although Oscar Frere's win was somewhat of a surprise, he's come up with the goods this year and confirmed that he is a top professional cyclist, and I would think, Phil, we will see him being a major challenger again.
The Breton flag waving proudly. This is their course, and many of the people here are coming to watch all of the top cyclists fight out the world title here. They come every year to watch the top riders ride in the Grand Prix Plouay and enjoy the spectacle, but I suggest in warmer conditions. But even so, the best bike riders now before them as they head out towards the big circuit. Now, these pictures were taken at the start earlier today. We're now going to pick up the action. A breakaway of 9 has got away at 60 kilometres on the 4th circuit. The Polish team are chasing. We are approaching 10 laps to go. So this is the Polish team who have driven this race, Paul, for a number of laps. I'm not too sure of their tactics, because they must have great confidence in one member of the squad to drive it like this, and the other riders behind are quite happy to allow it.
It's a long time since we've seen a Polish squad at the World Championships quite so dedicated as this to do all of the work on the front of the main field. These guys have been in the saddle now for over 3 hours of bike racing, and I tell you one thing, the speed that it's been run off at so far is going to cause some pretty serious breaks in the main field in the last 2 hours.
Well, there's the gap as the clock will stop as they go through. They drive on, the counter on the right, 10 laps still to go on this course. This is very typical of elite racing, allowing a breakaway to run and then start to drive it down. And the big bunch quite happy at the moment, and that, you see, is the danger here. This feeding station is in a rather bad and precarious place. Slightly downhill, the riders come through here pretty quickly. And, you know, during the races this week, they've had 1 or 2 problems, and they're having it with the pros today.
This is always a dangerous point because the helpers come further and further into the road, actually causing a natural alleyway, and that's why they do get these accidents.
There's an old ordinary or penny farthing, and I'll tell you what, they're really difficult to ride. I defy many of the professionals today to climb on the back of that. You need a lamppost first of all, and then you approach it from the back while it's totally unaware. And once you're up there, goodness knows how you get off.
Huge organisational job has been done here by the organising body here at Plouay for the culmination really of their week festival of cycling, and this is the World
Okay,
Professional
so
Road
let's
Racing
see.
Championship. They call it the Elite Championships nowadays, but this is really the ultimate.
What I can do.
These are the best men in the world, and this is part of the course field, which is very difficult indeed. The thing about the course here around Plouay is there's nowhere to rest and recuperate. It's hard on all of the time.
Have a look at these 9 men. They've got away on the 4th lap, second fastest lap time so far. 18 minutes and 9 seconds. Average speed is 47 kilometers an hour. That's it. Benito, here's Justo, Bushak, Croc, Morrow, Manischal, Luca, all got clear of the field. And now here we are on lap 10. And the time for the last lap was just over 19 minutes. So that was a very quick lap.
Very rapid lap indeed. But the strange thing I've always found about the professional road race field is it starts fairly slowly and it builds up in magnitude towards the end. And very often, if you look back through the records, you'll find that the fastest lap of the World Championships has usually been the last one.
Despite the conditions here, the crowd all the way around the circuit. Just take a look at the mud on the side of the road. People who have been camping here have been paddling away to the fence, I think. But even so, they stayed stuck to the guns and enjoyed some excellent World Championship racing here. As we look down now at Christophe Moreau of France. So the French have got a man in the mood to give them an easier ride for later perhaps, but the big name still waiting to fire. And the rear of the field, this is Olivier Bouchard, the Swiss rider. He also has got his big team behind him.
It's a pretty dangerous rider in here as well, just sitting on the back there for Italy. Danilo De Luca, a big favourite, a man who we saw ride very well at the Giro d'Italia earlier this season, which is why I think the Italians are not chasing at all at the front of the main field. They feel quite happy having De Luca in this group. The rider from Belgium who's managed to slip in there as well, Thierry Marichal, a French-speaking rider. He too was just sitting back, not contributing too much. I think most of Belgium today, Phil, will put their hopes on the shoulders of Axel Merckx.
Well, it's unlikely the breakaway will hold them off to the finish, but there's only the Poles chasing, maybe because of the spread of the nations here. De Luca is, as Paul has said, probably the biggest name to be here. He was trying so hard to pull on the Maglia Rosa of the Giro d'Italia this year. He got himself up in the end for the stage ring, and he got up to second overall, but he never quite got the jersey before he gave it all up. But he's had 6 wins now this season, and a real up-and-coming starter future. There he is. He's only just over 24 years of age. He's one of those cocky riders who knows what his talent is, and is prepared to show it to the world.
Certainly is a great bike rider. He was hoping to ride well at the Olympic road race as well.
Okay, it's Ryan Mott catching up to me.
Really looking after his
0.4 watts per kilo.
Paolo Bettini, they were the
I'm
ones
flying past me. There's my PR as well.
absolutely magnificent. There's a lot of pressure still being put on the front of that main field to apply the Polish squad. And I can only really think of one name, and that must be Sir Felix Krook, a man who has been very consistent so far this year for the one-day races. And they may well feel that today is the day that he can bring himself to the World Championship. It actually takes me back to, probably I would say the 70s, when there was a strong Polish amateur team that used to dominate the races. Riders like Ryszard Szymborski, who were absolutely magnificent. And it's really not since then that we've seen a dominant Polish team at the World Championship.
So allowing them to bring back this breakaway if they can. It is coming down, whether it's coming down quick enough. It's 4 minutes 18 the last time check was done.
It almost certainly will come down because these guys are making a concerted effort on the front. This is the very technical part of the course. Having come through the start-finish line, you then head out on the large circuit, 14 kilometres around. And this part of the course, if you're sitting near the back of the main field, it is very difficult indeed because there's already acceleration and deceleration into these corners. And that's why even at the World Championships level, it's so much easier to ride in the first 20, 25 places.
Well, in the Squaws race on that bend, because they didn't come round, the heart was in the mouth of some of the riders because they completely misjudged it. Back up with the leaders now, as they head under that start-finish banner again. Massive crowd cheering them on, clapping to keep on as much as anything else as they continue to set the pace. This is Eladio Jimenez sitting at the back as we've gone back to the main field. The Kazakhstan riders are in that sort of turquoise colour with the yellow flower on it. And we'll get a time check as the riders come through. But still the poles are not being interfered with here, enjoying their pacemaking. That's the word.
See how difficult it is at the back of the main field there. Those guys are really hammering to try and stay in contact with the wheel in front of them. But it is a pretty good combination of the front of the race at the moment with Eladio Jimenez of Spain getting in there. A major revelation in this year's Tour of Spain. Man that I'm sure there will be a lot of fights about during the winter months because certain teams, although he still has a current contract with the Banesto squad, certain teams are already making noises that they would like to bring him across to strengthen their squads for the coming season.
Well, it was 4:18, they're now saying 4:19 as we go out onto lap number 11. The voice there of the man who calls the Tour de France, Daniel Majas. Terrific knowledge of the sport. And he knows every rider without referring to a note. A magnificent commentator. Thank heavens he doesn't work in television.
He's unbelievable. He can talk for hours and hours about cycling. Knows absolutely everything about these guys, and he basically earns a living covering all of the major cycling events in France throughout the year.
There's a lovely picture. This really is a fabulous part of France out on the west coast. Not very far away, in fact, from the home of Bernard Hinault. Five-time winner of the Tour de France. Hinault is here, of course. And very typical Breton housing with the grey slated roofs and the white painted, those steeply spired churches. And I can guarantee the bars will be absolutely buzzing as the race continues. A bit of pacemaking being done by Wojciech Szymniewski. He's the Polish man at the front. His teammate here, gritting his teeth, I think it's Piatek. They're all up here now. The man is missing his crook. Jalabert is there too.
Jalabert sitting pretty close to the front of the pack. Crockville will sit in the main pack, probably around about 25th place at the moment. He will have a lot of responsibility put onto his shoulders there by the rest of the team, because the fact that they're chasing like this, they really are transferring responsibility to him to finish off the work that they're doing. Jalabert looking very calm and collected at the moment. He's got a World Championship title under his belt, that of the individual time trial, and he would certainly love to try and get himself a victory here in France. There next to him is Paolo Bettini with the green shoulders there, the Italian squad. Bettini's had a magnificent season so far. Davide Rebellin, the other rider in the green there, also a little further back. Italy, I think for the moment, pretty happy having Daniel Deluca in that leading group of riders.
Been a difficult selection process for the Italians because the sport is so popular in Italy, of course. Everybody, including the selectors, say what they feel about selection, and the public split over the decision to leave out David Rebellin and instead put in Marco Pantani. Oh, he's one of the Ukrainians who's called it a day. Now, Gonchar was the top rider here. This isn't Sergei Gonchar. He's already won the World Time Trial Championship this year. And this is the sort of conditions. It's Vladimir Klumak, who was the last rider, and I think the only rider, to finish for his team in the Tour of Italy, wasn't he?
He was, in fact, and he took out a stage victory, a win at the front of the main field, I should say, just behind the great breakaway by David McKenzie, Australian rider on the Linda McCartney squad. He popped out of the pack there, and nobody really knew who he was at the time, and now he's taken an early shower. Still, the poles on the front, Bill, they really are digging deep, and they're going to have to do something pretty special. They've taken 40 seconds off the advantage of those leaders right now, and still it's a very large pack for a World Championships at this stage.
Under the banner again, the gap is coming down, but ever so slowly. The clock counts on, but it was inside, well, they're saying 4:01, but I think it's less than that. because the head of that field went under that banner. As another lap is ticked off by the driving of the Polish boys. There's no doubt they've got a plan, and the rest of the race is thanking them very much for taking them all up to the leading group, and they're offering no assistance at all. So every one of these Poles sacrificing his world title for one man. We think we've nailed down the man in Zbigniew Spruk because we can't see him, and he must have told his teammates to go and drive the race.
Well, he must feel good. He's had a very good season with a lot of placings in the individual single-day World Cup races. He's a magnificent bike rider. I'm not sure that I would rank him as a world title shot, but maybe today he's in a special day, which is why he's asked his team to come forward. And the thing is, they have really missed the boat, the Poles here, because even the French must be pretty happy with having Christophe Moreau in that leading group of riders. All the major nations at the World Championships, the French, the Dutch, and the Belgians have got representatives up there, and of course the Italians too, which is why this situation has developed on the road for Poland. They're going to have to chase, and a 4.5 minute gap is a very difficult one to have to pull back at this stage of the race, because we're only just past half distance, and there won't be too many Poles left with good legs towards the end with a chase like this inside them.
Well, I think as you spoke there, Paul, there's one just blowing out, he's dropped away from the front and said, "That's my lot." I think it was Shalevsky. He's gone to the back now as the rest continue. Well, although our screen a few minutes ago did say 4 minutes, we're getting checks now 3:30, so this chase is working. It's bringing it down to very manageable performance. 19.5 minutes, very consistent laps. Remember when the break went, the pace shot up. They went through in just over 18 minutes, but they've regulated now at around 19.5, 19:40 for the 14.1 kilometre lap.
Just looking at the long line of bike riders there, you can feel the pain and the speed of this main field. But you know, it must be that they are working to Spruk this year, because Spruk has had a magnificent season in the one-day classics. Finished 4th in Milan-San Remo back in March, followed that up with a 9th place in the Tour of Flanders, 8th in the Amstel Gold Race. So he's always been looking to put in a good performance, and in fact we did see quite a lot of him at the front of the main pack in the Olympic Games, which wasn't too long ago in Sydney, but certainly under slightly different climatic conditions.
Well, I've known Zbigniew Spruk for a long time because I used to organise the British Milk Race for many years, the race director of that for 21 years, and in fact Zbigniew was one of the stars of the Milk Race. He used to come and ride. But look at this one, attack now by the French. Oh, no, this is coming back through the cars, so had a flat tyre.
The problem that Jalabert, who is down there, is being paced back into the main field, and it may well be that he's had a flat tyre. There doesn't seem to be any panic at all there. He's being paced back into the race by one of his teammates, and there's a Dutchman just sitting on the back there for the ride.
Well, if we've got the puncture, early is better than later. Jalabert, though, returning to the fold in many ways here to represent his country, because he's had a bit of a fallout over the last couple of years on the anti-doping policy and the exterior testing of riders, and the fact that he's moved to live in Switzerland away from the French, rides for the Spanish team, etc. Lost a lot of favour amongst the officials, but they've let him back in now, and he would love a result, because at the end of the year he apparently is going to leave Oncé, and then he'll be looking to come in to a French team.
He also has a problem with it. He doesn't have a contract signed at the moment. He actually declared that he wanted to have his contract signed and sealed before he went along to the Olympic Games. Well, that didn't happen at all, and in fact now he's still getting towards the end of the season without a contract for the coming year.
Big Tom Luper, I think it is, we caught a glimpse of Australia there, just moving on the outside. It's only 4 Australians started today. Jay Sweet, the sprinter. Scott Sunderland was rather miffed. He was not selected for the Australian team for the Olympic Games. He appealed that decision but lost, and he's got good form at the moment. Stuart O'Grady is in here, fresh after his crash, well not fresh, but since his crash in the Tour de France. He rode in the Olympic Games, but not with any real distinction. And Tom Leaper we've just seen.
Francesco Casagrande just on the left with the green. Laurent Brochard in the middle. Brochard riding very well this year, almost got himself a stage victory at the Vuelta a España not too long ago. Coming into the city of Avila just towards the end. There's Scott Sunderland there in the Australian jersey with the glasses on.
Scott is just the man, Paul, to throw a surprise at us today, because he's very annoyed about his non-selection for Australia, especially in his own country. The Olympic Games were in the state of New South Wales. He's a New South Welshman. He comes from Inverell, so he desperately wanted to ride those games, but didn't make it. And he's up here at the head of the race. One gets the feeling now that the Polish team are tiring, but they are still closing in on those leaders, which are beginning to show signs of raggedness. We're not seeing too many pictures of them, but when we do see them, there are signs of riders getting a little bit tired now. new Italian team colours off to the right with the green tops of the jersey.
Piotr Wadecki on the front, one of the riders of the Moroz team. The only fully fledged international team from Poland, a very well-drilled squad. They take part in many races all over the international circuit. And just now they are riding an excellent race. The Polish team have really got themselves organised today, but they should have had a man in that breakaway because every other major nation was represented. The tactics of the World Championships are always very strange indeed, because it's always a big battle between France and Italy, and everybody else very often just seems to be along for the ride.
Just got a glimpse there of number 1, Oscar Freire, last year's winner, riding near the head too, but not overdoing it. He's a marked man, of course, now, 1 year on, 9 wins, and a real challenger, recognised by the peloton as a man for the future. Had this back problem all year, which he hopes to get sorted out as he runs out of his season now. Still, of course, a rather exciting and very interesting tour of Lombardy to come, with Andre Schmil now showing a challenge to Eric Zabel for that championship. And Schmil starting today, one of the favourites. Another one started today, by the way, Abraham Olano. He's gone back home to Spain.
Well, he was a little bit surprised at not taking out the win in the individual time trial. He was the #1 favourite, fresh from the Olympic Games. He felt as if he would have won the event, and he blamed it on bad communication between himself and his manager. But I always thought that if you go out to win a time trial, you have to ride as hard as you can for as long as you can. So I think maybe the form just wasn't there.
And of course, no Andrea Taffi on the Italian squad, and there's no one more disappointed than he after winning the Paris Tours in such fine style. And when you look down the list of riders who have made the Italian squad, you really do have to ask the question, why leave out Andrea Taffi?
Well, Taffi, whether or not he's won a lot of races this year, is always a man to be counted on for the team. He's always the kind of rider who will work beautifully as a domestique, and surprisingly enough, they have left him out. And he'll probably be watching this at home now, not very happy, thinking, if I'd have been there, I'd have been ripping this race to pieces right now.
Back up with the leaders, that's Jimenez at the back of the race. Well, he's not at the back of the race now. That's Marichal who's come to the back. There's 2 Spanish riders in this group, enough to keep a worry over the field behind, although neither would be expected to be world champion by the end of the day. As Gert Kronk of the Rabobank squad sets the pace here at the front. This is Tilly Marichal.
The Russian rider in there is Lelekin. He's fairly young, 27 years of age. These riders now, Phil, really are realising that the chase is on behind as Marichal leads them up to the end of the lap. In second place, that is Kronk. Christophe Moreau must be feeling quite happy about this race situation. And looking at Danilo De Luca there in the Italian jersey, he doesn't actually seem to be flying all of that well at the moment. He's actually having a hard time staying on the wheel of the man in front of him. So we may well see another change in tactics later on. If the Italians get wind that in fact their man Danilo De Luca is not riding too well, I think they will come to the front as well and start to chase.
Well, I think this is attack time here. They've decided these 9 riders are getting a little bit cumbersome. They know that the Polish train is reducing it, and they're trying to split the field here as they come up this very nasty drag. It'll get worse too as the race goes on, because that is Roger Beauchat who has got on the train, and Gert Kronk is tagged on, but there's a few missing now.
That really has split the field. Marichal really put the hammer down, and that has reduced the number of riders, and I think that is not going to be a great move for them, because we've now seen the 2 Spanish riders there being left behind. The other French rider who was in that break earlier on, Beneteau, he has now been slumped to the rear as Christophe Moreau decides to come forward now and accelerate on the slopes of this climb. All of the French riders must be on a serious high here today, because they are racing on a circuit which in the month of August sees around about 250,000 spectators witnessing the Grand Prix of Plouay. 5 riders now leading the race, but behind, the riders from Poland really are doing an excellent job, and they're slowly but surely eating into the advantage of this breakaway.
This is a surprise. Tilly Marichal trying to split the field, and he's not a rider of great note. I'm just wondering what his tactic is. A couple of tours under his belt. He's ridden the last 2 editions and finished both of them rather lowly, but nonetheless to finish the Tour de France is a tremendous achievement.
Well, the 2 Spaniards have been caught here. One is Eladio Jimenez, and the other is Rafael Diaz Justo. And the other rider caught out in that split was the Russian rider Sergei Lelekin. If they can integrate over the top of this climb, they will reform to make a 9-man leading group. but looking back, it looks as if they've already lost around about 20 seconds from the 5 riders who are leading right now.
168 kilometres done. 5 of the original 9 that got clear around the 60-kilometre point. So they've been 100 kilometres together. The 2 Spanish riders are being dispatched backwards, as too is Walter Benito, the Frenchman, and the Russian rider Lelekin. Marichal was the troublemaker, 27-year-old. He's got 2 wins this year, including finishing 2nd overall in the Circuit Franco-Belge. A very good result for him, so he's got his form at the right time.
Christophe Moreau decided what his tactic is going to be as we get confirmation of the group there. Although I did say that Danilo De Luca looked under pressure, he's still in this leading group of 5, and so that will take the pressure off the Italian squad behind. Walter Benito, by the way, in the 2nd group on the road there for France, won the Circuit de l'Orne, which is not too far away from here. It used to be known as the Criterium of Châteaulin, and it was always the great big revenge match after the World Championships, when the World Championships were held in August. So that was a big win for him, and he too is a rider from not very far away from here, from Nantes, and was a member of Jean-René Bernado's Vendée U development squad.
Looking at the back now, 101. Mate Prom, I think I called him Gert Prom earlier. Gert, who was an ex-speed skater. That's having too many memories, I think. Gert is now out of it. This is Mate Prom, who's up in the breakaway. Sits at the back, and it's a good move by the youngster as well.
Christophe Moreau is the strongest rider in the group right now, and it would be nice to go back to the main field and just see if any of the other teams have decided to come forward, because the news must certainly have gone back now that the 2 Spanish riders who were in this group have been left behind, and that will change the whole look of this bike race. Obviously the Belgians will be fairly happy with the presence of one of their riders in here, but one man on the Belgian squad has actually axed the whole of the end of the season towards this World Championships, and that's André Schmil, recently 2nd in the Paris Tours World Cup race. He is looking for the big win here, and in fact declined selection for the Olympic Games to concentrate on winning the World Championships.
Well, he's going to thank the Poles that they catch up. The Italians are hovering, look, all of them with the green jerseys on. Still 4 Poles setting the pace, and no one is assisting them. The pace, though, is registering the fact that they are bringing them all back ever so slowly is the case, but the gap is closing. They should be inside 3.5 minutes at the next time check we get.
It's a bit strange to be looking at a World Championships and have names like Jan Ullrich, Lance Armstrong and Alex Zuller absent from the starting list. A real reflection that the majority of the big names can't hold on till the end of the season, and unfortunately we have had good World Championships, but maybe not all of the best riders in the world are present at the latter part of the season.
In a couple of years' time, these championships on these dates will be in Canada. Well, I am assured that it's an area where the snow doesn't come that early. Let's hope they're right, because otherwise we would be in trouble. But there is a rumour actually coming out of these championships that they are seriously considering now moving the titles back into the end of the summer season, which will be August into September, where of course they always were. I think it's fair enough now, because the Tour of Spain has been a very successful move from April to September, a race in its own right now, much more interesting than it was, and so I think the change is ready.
Absolutely. Christophe Moreau, the larger rider there, rode absolutely superbly in the Tour de France, finishing 4th overall, just losing out in the final time trial to his own teammate Joseba Belocchi. But Danilo De Luca, having gone through that bad patch, is really being encouraged now by the crowd, and what a magnificent crowd this is through the finishing area, Phil. I would say there are in excess of 350,000 spectators today, and if the weather had been good, they were expecting 500,000.
Well, watch the clock, 7 laps to go. These 5 riders must now be feeling the Polish cold air coming up from behind. These are the 4 that were dropped from that group of 9. Remember, they went away on the 4th circuit. We're now 7 from the end of the 19. And they know they're resigned to the fate now, that shortly they'll be the first to see the Polish boys close it down.
Well, the fire has gone out of these guys now, and they will know that fairly shortly they will feel the breath of the Polish squad on their backs, because the Poles are doing a magnificent job on the front of the main field, trying to pull this race back together. And the fact that that leading group now has split into 2 groups of 5 and 4, I think we will see the whole race coming back together, but it's going to be a long, hard chase by the Poles. This group now of 4 filled just inside 1 minute in arrears of the leading group of 5.
Yes, they've more or less given up now. Once they're dropped, there's no point in continuing on. You may as well just ride round to the peloton, picks you up, see if there's anything left in those legs. Back into the danger zone. This is there's the French with all the bags hanging out. But it looks as though Francis Moreau, yes, he got one. He's had an unfortunate season this year. He's had 2 crashes very early on. Francis Moreau broke his collarbone in the first one, then fractured his skull in the second. But at least he's got himself back into form.
Second group of 4 riders here. There's 2 Spaniards on the front there. Here's Justo and Eladio Jimenez. Jimenez taking a stage victory in the Vuelta a España, and certainly regarded by many as one of the great Spanish hopes for the future. A huge turnaround in Spanish cycling when a few years ago one wouldn't have expected to see the Spanish being so competitive in the one-day World Championships, but since Abraham Olano took their first title in Colombia and then followed that up last year with the win by Oscar Freire, I think they're fancying their chances today. And Oscar Freire, for me, Phil, still has to be a super chance at the finish, because this circuit is not a circuit for the major climbers, and if it's a group of riders of 25 or 30 left towards the end, then really Oscar Freire has a chance of being one of the rare world champions to take the title twice on the road.
Well, that would be rather nice for Freire, especially after a surprise victory last year. It was a great season that has followed since. De Luca on the left of our picture, a man of quality, I think, and we will be very happy the way things are going. The 7 laps go. Here's the bunch. Now, are they coming to the start-finishing line? If so, the clock will be on them. It's not long since the leaders have gone through. They are getting much closer than they were. It was 3.5 minutes, but I think the effort by the Poles has slashed that right down now.
Still an awful lot of bike riders left in the event at the moment. The amazing thing about the World Championships is it's this constant pressure. And there you can see the Spaniards fill in about 10th position there, still looking pretty comfortable, pretty happy with the situation. Axel Merckx was still in the main field there, looking quite comfortable. And Gordon McCauley, I think I caught a sign up there, the Kiwi rider. There's 2 Kiwis in the field here, one Chris Jenner, the other McCauley. And looking down there, you can see that there's still a very large field left in the professional World Championships.
Well, these boys haven't really turned the pedal around, but they're sat behind the poles. There's the gap, though. Still quite a considerable one. They've really held on here. 3:24 it is now, 7 to go.
It's really going to hurt the Polish team later on, and everybody else for the moment pretty happy just to sit back and allow them to set all the pace-making at the front. Alexander Vinokurov still in the main field, but a glimpse of him. There's the other Estonian rider, Jan Kursipu. Kursipu, another man that if the race doesn't toughen up towards the end there, in fact, Andre Schmeel still looking very comfortable. Strange way to eat a bottle, but maybe he's just found a different way of drinking.
They'll never get it down, no matter how hard he tries. But Schmeel will feel things are under control just now. There's a nice view again of the town of Buey. This race on the outskirts. The town itself is full of narrow streets, and you couldn't run the race through there. So they're on the outskirts here as the peloton. Still a big one. Speed's on its way. Still working out how they're going to close the gap, because the last time round it was 3.5. They've only knocked 7 seconds off this time, and that's not an indication they're going to wipe them out yet. The Poles are going to request some help soon, I think.
On 54 seconds, that group of 4 is in arrears of the leading group of 5 in the main field, 3.5 minutes behind right now, and all of the pressure, Phil, still coming from that Polish squad. These are the 4 riders caught in the middle. Walter Benetto is number 25, rides for the Bonjour team. And the 2 Spaniards, they really did get caught out there, dear Justo and Eladio Jimenez. And Sergei Lelekin, well, I think he's just pretty happy to be there, because Lelekin is not a rider on one of the top international teams. In fact, this is the first time I've seen Lelekin racing, and he must be pretty happy to be at the front of the World Championships. A big chance for a rider like him to interest the sponsors and possibly ride into a professional squad for next season.
Well, Benetto there got round his first Tour de France this year. He's only a youngster. Another one of the fines, I think. Finished 71st. But the fact was he finished, and he seems to have come here determined to establish at least an impression on the event.
Well, another team coming to the front now. It may well be red and white, but this time, in fact, it's the Danish team who have decided to send 1 or 2 riders further forward. They've seen the big pressure that the Poles have been put under and decided now is the time to come forward and help out in the organisation of the front of this pack. And now that we are getting another team interested, it may well be a time that the main group in front will start to get pulled back. The thing about the Danish team is we did see a very impressive Rolf Sorensen a week ago in Paris Tours, and it may well be that Rolf is looking for the biggest title of his career. He's won almost every major one-day race that there is on the calendar, but he's never been world champion.
This is the dangerous stretch. We've had quite a few little tumbles here with the women juniors and the espoirs coming down this section. And the sharp left hand. I think it's Alan Johansson who's on the front. He's a sort of elder statesman now of the Danish riders, but even so, he's a late turning professional, and he is a strong man. So they'll welcome him at the front, and the Poles could do with a break anyway, because I don't know how many left to be chasing, at least 4.
It's very difficult for them, and this is the technical part of the course. And I tell you one thing, you don't want to be in 30th or 40th position right now, because you're hanging right onto the wheel of the rider in front of you. There are the 4 riders who were caught in no man's land, so they're just about to get brought back into the fold. And so now the race situation will be the 5 leaders with the rest of the main pack together.
Have to swoop round the roundabout, and the 4 riders rounded first on the inside track. There's the field right onto them now, so the field will soon work out. They haven't got them all, if they didn't know already, and they'll assess who they've caught and who they haven't. There they are, the 2 Spanish, the Russian and the Frenchman are back in the fold. Where's the other Spanish rider?
Well, now that this situation has happened on the road, I think we may well see Spain coming forward as well, Phil, because Oscar Freire must certainly be a serious challenger for the title if they can keep a large group together. And it seems for the moment as if there hasn't been too much devastation at the back of this pack, and it is a very large group. The whistles and the shouts going forward now from the Poles. The Poles realising that Spain now don't have any riders in the front, so they've cut off the power, they've sat up, and now I think we will see a change in the front of the main field.
I think you're right. They've now said that the other boys have got no excuse now for not giving us a hand, so if they won't do it, then we won't bother either. And the reaction coming straight away from Spain. That was a good decision by the Polish riders. Otherwise, these boys would have tanked them all the way to the finish and then taken the medals. Now Spain go out on the attack.
Well, that's a bit strange. Spain there not really wanting to come to the front and organise a chase and deciding to launch a man off the front. Not a very sensible move at this stage in the game, because those riders are still more than 2.5 minutes in front, and trying to ride across a gap like that at the World Championships is basically a waste of energy.
Well, he's a tall boy, and the tall boy which comes to mind is Martin Perdiguero, who is on the attack here. And the riders try to reorganise themselves to see if they can get the counter action going. Remember, there's still 5 riders, 3 minutes and 20 seconds ahead.
This is a tough course. You can actually see, looking at the pavement out there as well, that it's not a smooth surface here. These Breton roads, the small roads away from the main highways, are very, very rough, and they're not really rolling it along as well. It's very difficult to get any kind of moving. This, in fact, looks very much like Jose Enrique Gutierrez, who's going forward. I know you did. You've always been good on your Spanish riders. You can see that was a clever move, though, by the Spanish. This is how he got away. He had his teammate on his wheel there, and as soon as they got to the front of the pack, he sat up and allowed this man to go clear. But I don't think he's too far off the front of the main pack right now.
What a great season Kelme have had too. Winning out team winners in the Tour de France. Wonderful performance. And challenges all of the way. And now we've got Heras, winner of the Tour of Spain. Rumours, by the way, he might move across to Lance Armstrong's side.
Well, that would be an incredible move for the US Postal Service team. Though he does still hold a valid contract with the Kelme squad, it is an interesting move for him to move across there. He said that he made those contacts well before the Tour of Spain. He's very interested to ride along Armstrong and learn how to ride time trials. He feels that he would be a much more improved rider riding alongside Armstrong for a couple of years, and maybe then have a crack at winning the Tour de France overall. The main field coming up towards the finishing area, still a huge pack of riders, Phil. Nobody yet has managed to break the stranglehold, and not really a very clever tactical move by the Spanish right now, because they do have a serious challenger for the win in Oscar Freire, and they need to get themselves pretty much organised at the front of the pack if they're going to pull that leading group of 5 back.
Well, this man's proving to be a nice little carrot here now, or a nice large carrot actually, in Gutierrez. So looking down, riders trying to get away from the front of the pack. The sign writers have been busy. Well, this is an interesting attack. The Polish riders still setting the pace, trying to keep everybody on the toes. It's a tough one. This is going to Radetzky, the Mroz rider. He's had a good day. There are 3 riders on the Moros team made the selection for the Polish team, and I think they've got 8 men on the start line today.
Well, Wadecki wearing a slightly different jersey to the rest of the team now, and I'm not sure that's allowed at the World Championships. He's actually wearing the Polish National Road Racing Champions jersey, and at the World Championships you're supposed to wear the national jersey of your country, but today he's decided to opt for that. He may well find himself getting a slight fine from the Union Cycliste Internationale. He's 2-time national champion of Poland, actually took the time trial championships as well.
Well, the design's the same, it's just the writing on the top altered a bit, so they might get away with that. Anyway, Isidro Gonzalez getting away with nothing because Gutierrez rather, he's being caught. And now the Italians, this is Bettini, who are now trying to stir things up a bit. They sense it's getting time. Now De Luca may not be too happy with this.
Surprised to see. I think he just wants to pull the Spanish rider back into the fold right there. A little test of the legs to see how everybody else was going to attack. Gutierrez looks over his shoulder, realises it's all over right now. And it's still the Polish coming to the front. That is Gilles Brook there moving forward. You can see the blue and pink shorts of the Lampre squad. He too coming forward right now just to show the team that he is there, still in the bike race. But he shouldn't have come off the front like that right now.
Well, that bunch is thinning out rather dramatically now. Gutierrez is showing his resistance, but now it's all over. Now the serious boys are beginning to fire. This looks like being a good lap, and surely it was 3:24 last time around. And that was a 19-minute 35 lap, by the way. Surely now on lap 13 we're going to see that gap come down.
Well, the hammer now starting to come down a little more. Everybody trying to raise the tempo in this main field, but you can always see when it's hurting because riders looking over their shoulders to see if the gaps are appearing in the main field, and they're not right now. There's a couple of Dutch riders moving forward there. Michael Bogard is in the group quite comfortably. There's Scotty Sunderland halfway down the pack. Looking further down the main field, a lot of these riders really are starting to suffer right now.
Yes, this is the crunch period. There's always stages of a World Championship when you have to grit your teeth and hope you survive to come through the other end. And this is one of those periods now at around 180 kilometres covered, some 80 kilometres still to race. They've got to answer the pressure being put on. We're chasing at 5 survivors of 9, and the gap is coming down.
It's not coming down very rapidly at the moment though, as Alexander Vinokurov comes to the front here, the rider from Kazakhstan, Olympic silver medalist, a magnificent bike rider, one of a great Kazakhstan international amateur team who raced all over the world and then literally exploded, nearly every one of those riders getting a professional contract. You can see the pressure now as people move left and right in that front of that spearhead, trying to be near the front but not wanting to put their noses into the wind at the moment.
And don't blame them. Back up to the front runners. Another lap can be ticked off here, reaching the 184 kilometre point. And then the clock will start and we'll see what they've got. That's Beauchamp of Switzerland, quite like the Swiss team colours as they come through. I like the new Italian colours too. The Lucas wearing those, sat on the back. These riders have been away now since the 60th kilometre, so 120 kilometres in the lead, which is some 70 miles out front, 4 hours 22 as they go out on lap 14.
6 laps remaining. Beauchamp's had a pretty reasonable season. He's a young rider with 1 victory to his credit, and that was just a couple of weeks ago in the Hessen-Rundfahrt when he took out the second stage as Austria moves to the front. There in the middle for France is Beauchamp, Frenchman there on the left-hand side with a slight problem, and it looks very much as if it's Laurent Jalabert got his arm in the air.
Well, now this is a far more serious situation for Jalabert if he has. Laurent Brochard going through camera now. He's also right at the sharp end, looking for the move perhaps. This is the area now. You must hope this nurse, poor old Jalabert there. He must have a flat tyre.
He has a serious problem. His hand has been up. He's looking over to see if there are any teammates around right now. And I wonder, there's the French team car right at the front of the pack, but this is not the time to have an incident because the pressure is pretty much on at the front of the pack right now, and if he finds himself off the back with a mechanical incident, he's going to have a hard time getting himself back into the race.
Radetzky is driving this race on. He's going like a train. It's a bit of a performance for the crowd, I think, this to the start-finishing line, but he's going well. Brochard sprinting up on the left of our picture. Trying to join 3 men on the attack. There's the tying up. My goodness me, it's come down this time. 2 minutes, 8 seconds the gap.
still been a very long and hard chase, Phil, to pull back from 4.5 minutes to 2 minutes. But I do feel now that we will see the end of that leading group of 5 fairly shortly. Well, another man has climbed into the pits. This is Frédéric Pinot of France. And this is the part of the race now where we can expect more and more riders to pull away from the race. 1 minute 55 seconds is the official time on the board for the 5 riders at the front of the bike race. And still, Christophe Moreau is the man really keeping the pressure on. He's the man who's got the most to gain from a situation like this, as well as Danilo De Luca in second position there. De Luca must be just keeping his fingers crossed and hoping there's going to be some tactical manoeuvres in the main field behind, but that doesn't happen at the World Championships. Once you get to the critical part of the race, the hammer really does start to go down, and Brochard is the man
So,
right now.
tomorrow,
Off the front of the pack, Phil, and
figure I would do 1 or 2 low elevation easy rides or have a rest day. Saturday, Saturday I'm trying to decide whether to do the singles route again or do an Everesting instead.
Belgians are sending a man up there to try.
Because I've still got a Sunday race to do,
Nico Martin moving
which is
forward.
another hill climb.
It isn't in fact Nico Martin, it's one of the other Belgian riders. That's Michael van Aken who's got across. And he's not a rider we see an awful lot of on the international circuit. The man I feel they're working for.
So do I do an 8,000 metre?
And at the back of the pack we're hearing over race radio that there is a problem with Laurent Jalabert.
Or a 4,500 metres on Saturday.
Well, that's a real shame. The question is, he's going to be very unlucky because the hammer has gone down right at the moment he slid off the back of the field. We're now on to lap 14 here, 185 kilometres covered for the main field. The leaders just a little bit further ahead, but not by much now. They're probably inside 2 minutes now after this flurry of attacks.
I tell you what, the hammer is really down right now. Everybody is trying to get off the front. Everybody is trying to form the counter-attack in pursuit of those 5 leaders at the moment. Their advantage has come down pretty rapidly. It was at one time 4.5 minutes.
Yeah,
it's now well inside of 2 minutes.
Get all
and the
those
speed is obviously different in the main field. You can
cloths
see the difference in the speed. These riders,
and
Phil, now are
towels off the
approaching
bike.
50 kilometres an hour. And this
There's
lap,
no
if they
good in the
keep this
wash.
pressure on, is going to be pretty close to the fastest so far.
But the impetus is slipping just a bit as that flurry of attacks has been brought back to heel. The riders looking for who's going to move next. The lap time itself was not great, 19:35 followed by a 19:41. So nothing approaching the 18:09 done when the original break went away on lap 4.
Christophe Moreau leading the way to the finishing straight. There is Danilo De Luca. De Luca's a magnificent bike rider, and there's been some incredible sums of money bandied around to try and pick up this bike rider. Sums of money well in excess of $1 million per year, and I certainly think that he's going to be a great bike rider. Very cocky for the moment, knows exactly what he wants to do, and he so dearly wanted the Maglia Rossa in the Giro d'Italia this year. The huge crowd is not though for Danilo De Luca with the green shirt there. It's for Christophe Moreau, the French representative in this leading group of 5.
200 kilometres, give or take.
Okay, so that's my
now.
recovery done. My cool down.
This instruction on Matej Kronk has been left, has he, by the leaders? Gritting his teeth anyway. Spot a bother, he was in the breakaway, but he's in trouble now.
Well, that's a surprise. He may well have had a mechanical incident because he seemed to be riding fairly well there. He's 30 seconds or more in arrears of that leading group of riders.
He must have punctured, we never heard about that, but he must have punctured as he goes into 5 laps to go.
Bit of calm coming to the front of the main field right now. But you can notice now the organisation starting to come in from the Italians. A lot of those green shouldered jerseys moving to the front. That's the Italian squad, the new Italian strip. They've got a pretty good role to play here right now because they have Danilo De Luca in the leading group of riders, but they also have Michele Bartoli. Bartoli just on the right-hand side there with the Triclamor helmet on that helmet indicating he's the national champion of Italy this year. And he likes this circuit. He said openly when he won the Grand Prix of Plouay in the month of August that he'd like to come back in a couple of months' time and find himself crowned the world champion. He was the super favourite before the start of the championships, and for the moment he hasn't made a wrong move.
And these 3 riders surviving here now, well, 4 riders, sorry, Brochard sitting on the back of them. I don't know if you noticed Barty there, Paul. He's still got his top jersey on, his zip up top. I mean, that's something you wouldn't normally see in a World Championship with some 5 laps left to race.
Still pretty cool for the moment. There is his teammate Paolo Bettini, wears 39 in second position, right up against the barriers right now. But the main field slowly but surely starting to reduce in numbers, and it's in the last 2 or 3 laps you'll see riders disappearing from this group. It's still pretty big though for this state of a World Championships. 5 laps still to go to the finish, and a huge convoy of cars behind the riders. All the major nations are allowed to bring 12 riders to the World Championships, and the lesser teams are allowed to bring just 8. The defending team, which is in this instance Spain, would have been allowed to start 13 riders here at the World Championships, Alano being the 13th man, and he in fact decided to take his dummy and go home after he was beaten in the individual time trial. But it's a big advantage, and this is all decided on the rankings of the teams in the international field. UCI ranks all of the countries, and if you finish in the top 6, you're allowed to bring 12 riders to the World Championships.
Just sort of caught a glimpse there at the head of the field of Chan McRae, who had a great ride last year and finished 5th. I think he's the only survivor left in now of the Americans. I think all of the others, there weren't many of them, are now out. Antonio Cruz, who also rode in the World Championships, Danny Pate and Fred Rodriguez. Haven't seen Fred at all, the American champion, but McRae's still certainly at the thick end of the race.
Pretty close to the front there, wearing 36 is Richard Vironk. And I wonder what's going through his mind right now as Mate Bronk has been caught. That leaves just 4 riders at the front of the World Championships right now, and their advantage is coming down all of the time.
I just have the feeling that Bronk did have a flat tyre there, but anyway, it doesn't matter now. He's back in the field. Of the 9 originals, 4 survive as the race continues to chase them all down. Still 1 or 2 Belgians there. They are working, of course, for Andre Schmil. Bartoli tucked in nicely. How he would like to round off his season with a world title. There he is over to the right. No, there he is gone. I don't know where he's gone.
Just keeping pretty close. He's in the first 5 or 6 riders there, just off to the right-hand side. He's keeping himself off the front of the main field right now, but also as close to the front as possible in case there are any surprise attacks. Right in the middle there is Axel Merckx in the Belgian jersey, just going off to the left. There is now the orange jersey on right now. Big, strong rider, Axel. Looking pretty nervous right now, looking over his shoulder. Probably wants to know the whereabouts of Andre Schmil. What a great season Axel has had. He's brought his dad an awful lot of emotion. A great individual stage victory in the Giro d'Italia, when I could not believe that he would come back after a dramatic crash. And then in the month of June he took the national championships, and it's been a long time since the Belgians have seen the name Merckx right at the top of the leaderboard. And I'll tell you one thing, they say that Eddie was actually there commentating for Belgian television, and they had to rip the microphone away from him with about 10 kilometers to go.
Well, you know, Merckx followed by Merckx is a pretty sensational thing to happen, because apart from Johan Museeuw, a couple of flurries by 1 or 2 other riders, there hasn't been much to shout for in Belgium in recent years. The Italians at the minute are doing everything right. They've got all of their players at the front. The Spanish riders are riding in defence of Oscar Freire again. It's an interesting move this. The big guns are firing. The big teams who boast 12 starters are now showing the advantage of having so many riders on the start line.
Well drilled squads coming forward now, getting team tactics, and I do feel that the Spanish really only have one major chance in their ranks, and that is the defending champion Oscar Freire, and that would be pretty impressive if he could make it 2 in a row. The last time that was done by Gianni Bugno, and it's very rare for a world title to happen twice in succession. The field, Phil, does look to be reducing in numbers somewhat, and it really is becoming a war of attrition as we rejoin the 4 leaders, and they're looking a little bit more ragged than they did earlier on. This climb, although not very much if you do it just on one occasion, after 5 or 6 hours in the saddle, really does start to become quite a mountain. And it feels as if somebody's got a hydraulic jack underneath it, and they're lifting it up each time you come around.
Those legs are not going to make it to the finish on these 4 riders, and there's the reason why. 1 minute 10 seconds now, back to the peloton. Robbie Hunter, the latest rider to reach our ears from South Africa, who's now retired.
And the fact, although the time gap was just over the 1 minute, I noticed they're pushing all of the cars out of the gap right now, and these guys know what that means. That's why Marichal there from Belgium is looking over his shoulder.